So we're gonna be doing a session prep session today. Session prep session. We're gonna do a session prep video, what do you want to call it? So we're gonna look back at the 3 sessions we played since my last one, actually. So it's been a while. We haven't done a session prep stream in I think 2 weeks now. I guess even longer. But yeah, so the first week, I had a lot of problems. I was tied up at work, and I was on call for that week, and I had to spend a lot of time doing that. But the second week, I skipped 2 prep sessions, I think 3 prep sessions, because I had a bad session, and I guess we'll get into that a little bit later. But it wasn't even that big of a bad session, but I had this maybe like 20 minutes in a 3-hour session that I felt was really bad, and I felt really bad about it, and I let it get to me, which is kind of silly when you think about it. But I let it get to me, and I didn't want to I don't want to look at the D&D session. Like I didn't want to. It was silly. I didn't want to prep. I didn't want to I didn't want to be reminded of how bad I felt, and we'll get into that a little bit. Um, so I guess the first thing is we always look back at what we did in the previous ones, and like I said, this is like 3 sessions ago. So this is the map we're looking at now is not even relevant to what we're kind of talking about. But I'll just do like a real quick recap because again, I even right now I feel like I don't want to spend too much time going over the bad session. But so basically the last 3 sessions they had already finished everything that I thought was of worth doing in the elf lands, right? So if I go over here and I'll just bring up Faith real quick. Um, so they were hanging out in Faith. They had already, they went to the Gosray Temple and they had done the thing, right? So basically, the idea behind my campaign, if you're new, if you haven't been following the session prep videos or you haven't been watching the stuff, basically I wanted to do the Odyssey. I was like, okay, you know what? I just want to do an Odyssey campaign. I want to have archipelago, a bunch of weird people living on islands, and they go from thing to thing. They get blown around by the sea god, and we kind of just have fun with that. And as I mentioned in the other ones, I didn't want to just throw them into that. I didn't want to say, here's session 1, you're all shipwrecked on an island, or here's session 1, you're being blown about at sea and you're shipwrecked. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to have the players feel responsible or involved in the fact they got shipwrecked. And then to do that, I kind of threw together this little mini campaign in the beginning, which was, oh, you taking over an elf port city, you do all these things, blah, blah, blah. Eventually, as part of that, you fight in a temple of Gosray, you kill their priests, and all this stuff happens. That was kind of the gimmick. That was the what we were going for there. So that finally happened. I think 3 sessions ago that actually happened, and they killed the priests. I was a little let down on myself in that I didn't do any role playing with the priest. I felt really bad. They snuck in the back door and basically found the priest standing there, and I just had the priest attack. Basically I saw them sneak up and the priest shouted back to me like, are these the ones that have been following you, to the ranger that was fighting them before. He said yes, and it was time to fight. So I didn't really give any real compelling reason for them to be fighting, and I also felt like I didn't really want to give them an out, though. I didn't want to start a conversation and have them rationally explain what was going on, because I wanted them to have the fight there. I wanted them to desecrate this temple. I wanted them to kill the things, blah, blah, blah. So I threw them into the fight. They took it. And whatever, it is what it is. So they came back, and then in the session after that, they spent a lot of time in the town just kind of role playing. They put on a play. So they went over, they talked to the commander, they did a bunch of stuff, they role played with some NPCs. Then they, at the end of one of the sessions, they put on a play, which was Frankko, who's the swashbuckler. He's like a dramatic person. And he wants to be an actor. That's his big thing. One of the reasons he joined the army was to get knowledge and to kind of practice as an actor. And he put on a play, and he wrote this whole play. The player Jeff wrote this whole play. He wrote at least like the highlights. He didn't actually write line for line a whole play, but he wrote like the scenes and what happened in a description of each scene. And if you go through the videos, if you go on YouTube, all my VODs are there. So just find Jay Moskie, JMOSKIE, anywhere. Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. You can see a list of the scenes that he put down, and essentially it was about the darkness. So there's been this long-running thing in the campaign about, oh, there's this darkness hanging over the town, and the goblins, who the elves thought were fae, were here to come and fight the darkness. They never explained what the darkness was. They didn't say if it was a person or a thing or a bad idea, but they kind of convinced the elves that this is why they're here. It's important that the goblins are here to do this. So the party kind of latched onto this and said, you know what, we should reinforce this as many times as we can. And whenever we're talking to the elves, we bring up, oh yeah, the darkness, we're working on it. We went to the forest to see this. And Frankko said, you know, we should do a play about the darkness. The elves seem to like art and culture and plays, so we should do something about that. And he wrote this whole play called The Darkness, and like he has all these scenes where he, you know, the Goblin Frankko and G Pain, who is a singer, obviously G Pain. They were doing a bunch of stuff, and they were doing sound effects, and G Pain was doing illusions because he's a bard, and Frankko was performing with two elves. There was a dancer and a poet who were helping in different scenes. And through the whole point of the play was basically, we, the goblins and the humans around here, are here to help you. We are here to fight off the darkness. We are becoming one people, blah, blah, blah. And the entire play was built on all of these themes. And he did a really good job. He wrote it all down. It was really awesome to hear him kind of speak it out loud. And he rolled really well on his perform check. The elves helping him did not. The poet was okay, and the dancer rolled a natural one. So the dancer was like almost didn't break any legs, was kind of making a fool of herself at like one of the most important parts of the play, where the goblin and the elf are dancing around each other and like kind of like dance fighting, and then they slowly become one and begin moving in unison. The dancer kind of messed that up, and that, you know, part of the point of the play was a little messed up. So they had that play, and that was basically the end of the session. And right at the end there, I had the poet come out after everybody was taking their bows. The dancer took her bow, and the poet went out to take his. But instead, he read a poem, which was essentially like, "Hey Gosray, we know we've abandoned you. We've turned to Saren Ray. We know that, you know, you're angry with us." And he referenced the darkness. It's like, this is the darkness, then we will bear it. And he said that, I wish you turned back to us. Like, I wish you would turn and look at your people again. I know you don't follow with simple words and promises, so I hope this sacrifice is for you. And he kills himself. He takes out a hairpin, which Puck gave him because, you know, Puck, a barber, so he did some elf hair, and this elf was one of the elves that took him up on it. He did a nice little bob with a hairpin in it. So the guy stabbed himself in the neck and killed himself. And G Pain was horrified, and Puck was horrified. But Frankko was like, no, let it go, let it go. This is part of the play now. This is amazing. Let this happen. And that's where we ended the session. So that was one session down. And then, you know, this was really dramatic. We ended on like, this elf just killed himself. What's going to happen? Are the elves going to riot? What's going to go on? And we pick up the next session, and the elves were not rioting. So essentially, the elves were mostly confused. Some thought this was extremely high art. Even if they weren't sure if the elf actually killed himself. But even if he did, like, maybe this is something that the elves were kind of into, like snuff plays. Like, this would get like the pinnacle of art. Like, to do this as an artist would be something really important and interesting. So so the elves are basically okay and confused, and they were accepting the culture of it. They seemed to understand what was going on generally, even though like they lost something in the middle because of the bad performance by the dancer. But they got the idea behind the play. They figured out what Frankko was kind of going for, and the vibe that Frankko wanted. Opilius and the other soldiers had no idea what the hell was going on. It went completely over their heads. And Opilius, again, this is their general, their commanding officer that's leading the assault in this town. He was super pissed off. So in the next session, he storms behind the curtain and, you know, drags the dead elf and says, "What the hell is going on? Why did this elf just kill himself?" And the party doesn't have an answer for him. So the party's going back and forth. And Frankko's like talking about high art, like, this is amazing, you don't understand. And Opilius is having none of it. Opilius is pissed off and freaked out and worried that the elves, like, you know, what was he praying? Because also Opilius doesn't speak Elven, so what the hell did he say? And they recited back what he had said. He said, was that a prayer? What is he praying to? What is Gosray going to do? And the party didn't have an answer. And he was super pissed off. He was like, what's going on? Why are you doing this? Why are you inciting these elves like this? And they said, we're not inciting them. We're using the darkness to control them. And they made their argument persuasively, and they made some checks. I think they made diplomacy checks. And so they calmed him down a little bit. He was still like furious and terrified of what was going to happen. And at one point he told them, like, no more performing. I don't want you guys to put on any more plays until I say it's okay. But even out of nowhere came in and said, no, if you make this a big deal, if you say no more plays, it'll become a big deal. Like, if you draw attention to this, it's going to become bigger than you want it to be. You should just let the plays continue. And he rolled another check really well. He made a persuasive argument, made his check. So yeah, so Opilius allowed the plays to continue, but he was still a little irked by it. So that was fun. And the players did some more role-playing in town. And then the bad part of the session came. So basically what my idea for the session was that they do this bit of role-playing. Then we'd have a meeting. Like Opilius basically gets new orders and informs everybody, hey, we are going to be heading out soon. This is like the small town of Faith that they took over this tiny port in the beginning, and we're going to go to the next big thing. The next chapter of the adventure is this bigger city that we're going to do another invasion of. So Opilius has that meeting. He invites the goblins there. They have a high-level overview of what's going on. And then I said that the reinforcements, like a sending spell came in. That's how Opilius knew. So he got a magical word that this was happening. And I said that the boat with the reinforcements was coming in like a week and a half. And that was too much time. This was a mistake I realized I made after the fact, and I had talked about it to some other GM friends. I put this week and a half time frame in people's minds. And that kind of implied that, you know, there's something you can do. You have this time to play around, do whatever you want. In my mind, I was going to like just fast forward through it, or I was going to have them say like, in general, how do you spend 2 weeks in town, or a week and a half in town? What are you doing? How is your character interacting with the NPCs in town, both in the troop and the elves, and kind of just hand wave it and go through like that. But players are players. They want to do stuff. They want to have agency. It makes sense. In hindsight, it was silly for me to kind of assume that the players wanted to do that sort of thing. That they would just kind of buy into that fast forward and not want to just actively do stuff. So I did that. I laid down, okay, this is happening in a week and a half. A new boat's going to come, and it's basically going to have reinforcements. There's going to be colonists, and there's going to be soldiers that are going to come here and occupy the town. You know, the people that came here, the goblins in this party, and Opilius, the general, they are like the shock troops. They're the invaders. They're not the occupiers. They came here, they bested the elves. They're holding order until an actual big ship of colonists and guards can come. So I gave them this week and a half because I just thought it wouldn't make sense for the soldiers to just show up the next day. So I said, okay, fine, you got a week and a half. Like, their trip took a week to get here, I think. So basically, like, the King's Wizard sent Opilius a message saying, hey, your reinforcements will be there in a week and a half. And the party's like, okay, so what are we going to do for a week and a half? And they did some more minor role-playing, and then one of the things they did was they said, let's go try to find the green-haired guy, the fisherman. So if you were watching the other if you were watching the previous sessions, I think it was in the third or the fourth one, before they got to the town of Faith, they crossed the river and they bumped into a fisherman. And there was this whole scene. See if I have the fisherman. I upgraded Foundry and they've changed some of the UI, so it's a little weird to me. So yeah, so there was this whole scene with the fisherman. Elven fisherman. So they bumped in this guy, and he had like, you know, he had like white hair that when the breeze took it, it would turn like verdant green. And I kind of had it in my head that this guy was associated with Gosray, or maybe an avatar of Gosray, or something like that. We didn't really clarify exactly what he was, but he was weird. He was speaking in a weird way. He would say like, you know, like the noun first, and then things like fisherman I am. Visitors you are, see from you are, like things like that. He was talking in a weird way. He was speaking in Goblin, in like broken Goblin to them, which was weird, and it enticed them, and it was great. I had intended for him to just kind of show up, tell them like, hey, you can take over this town without slaughtering everybody. You can do this, that, and this. And again, I'm not going to go over everything. You can go ahead and watch the previous prep sessions, the previous sessions. But basically, he kind of said, you don't have to do a genocide here. You can do these things and kind of take over town. People will respect you if you do this. And they listened, and they did it, and it worked. And I kind of expected him to be there once, and then they'd bump into him again in the Odyssey. Or he, like, you know, basically he's going to be a recurring character, but I didn't really plan for them to be in the Elf Lands as long as they were. I had planned for it to be like 3 or 4 sessions. It ended up being 9 full sessions spending time with the elves. And part of that is that, you know, they surprised me and went on a little side quest, and part of that is that I built it out a little more. As we were playing, I put more meat into the elf areas because I felt like they were enjoying it, and I wanted to make sure that it was interesting and that the sessions were fun. So you know, between them surprising me and me building up stuff because that they seemed to like, it ended up taking 9 sessions. So the fact that they saw him in session 3 or 4 and then didn't see him again for like 4 or 5 sessions, they wanted to find him. And I was not prepared for that. That is not something that I had thought about at all. I didn't have maps for it. I didn't have text for it. I didn't really have an overall idea of what this person would be doing with them. I kind of have ideas for how he'll interact with them inside the, you know, in the Odyssey portion of the campaign with like the next chapter, but I don't have an idea of what he's going to do now. So they go out, and I don't stop them. I don't just say, no, you can't do that, because I felt like an asshole doing that. And I let them go out, and they went back to their river, and they just started praying and stuff. Where do I have, like, a river bank? So they just came here, they went to this river, where they met the fishermen, and they started praying. Well, they didn't start praying immediately. So they went here and they came to look, and they said, let's just hang out and wait. And I had it start raining, and I had it start raining heavier the longer they were there. They stayed there for hours. They started praying and stuff like that, and basically trying to get Gazre's attention, or this guy who's probably an avatar of Gaz, right? And the long story short was, I didn't want them to talk to Gazre or apologize to Gazre. Basically, Gazre was going to smash their boat. After a week and a half, this is the plot. This is the railroad. You're going to get on a boat thinking you're going somewhere, and Gazre is going to have other plans. So they're here trying very hard to talk to Gazre, and I feel bad that it's not going to happen. But I don't know what to do. So we struggle, and for about 20-25 minutes of game time, and several hours, like half a day of in-session time, they are talking to, like, praying to Gazre, fishing, trying to kind of do something, and I failed. I failed to let them do something. So basically, I don't know. I felt really bad about that. I feel like after they finished this, I felt like, you know, I had wasted time, and that they were trying to do something, and I didn't have something for them to do. And I felt like that was a failure as a GM. But I mean, at the end of the day, having nothing happen is a valid response. It just felt like I was saying nothing happened because I wasn't ready to do anything about it. I didn't have enough meat to go on there. And again, I didn't want them to do it. I didn't want them to, if the green guy came down and they started asking questions about Gaza, or they started trying to apologize for the temple, like, I don't know. I still want Gaza to be pissed. So I felt like the goal of my plot, the railroad I was going to, basically didn't allow for this, and we kind of suffered through that. And it was just this 20 minutes, which is not even, like, you know, a sixth of the time we play. This 20-minute period kind of soured me on the entire session. Like, when I thought back to the session, I thought back to these 20 minutes and how bad I felt during them. Once they wrapped up, I had the rain keep going, and it got harder and harder. At one point, even asked, is this the rain or is this you? And I played like a thunder crack. So they got the idea that Gazre wasn't happy with them, that it was raining here because they were out, blah, blah. They went back to town, it stopped raining, and we moved on. And long story short, we took a bio break, and when I came back, I basically just laid it out. Like, hey, I want to just jump ahead this week and a half. Like, you know, I should have done that. Like, I shouldn't have given you the week and a half, essentially. And I said, like, I don't have much prepared. I was planning we'd just jump this week and a half. And they were okay with it after I said it. But I felt stupid. I felt like I was failing them. So that was pretty it, though. We did jump ahead, and in the end, I think they enjoyed the session. Those 20 minutes were just agonizing, and the fact that I kept looking back on them, and that it actively made me not want to do prep sessions is kind of silly. But it happened. It was real. It was a real feeling. It was like, well, yeah, do I really want to come on and stream and prep? Or it wasn't even coming on and streaming and prep. It was just, I didn't want to prep. I didn't want to look at the campaign. My brain was like, that was terrible. What are you even doing? Imposter Syndrome, all kinds of stuff. And I was just like, I didn't want to look at it. So that's one of the reasons I was gone a week. There you go. But after that, we did some more role-playing in town. Opilius basically got them all drunk. He invited the upper echelon of his soldiers, which included all the goblins and everybody, to a planning session after a couple of stuff happened. So after the week and a half passed, the boat showed up, and the party went down to see who was getting off, and they met the new governor of Thaith. Forgot his name. It was a play on John Sicklemore, but I made it like Latinized, kind of like the Ratcliffe guy from Jamestown. But yeah, so long story short, the new governor came. He seemed to know Opilius. They shook hands. They talked about it. He talked up Opilius in front of everybody. Opilius looked not embarrassed, but not super enthused to be talked up like this. And they went back to town, and the players ended up just unloading the boat and talking to some of the new recruits. And they bumped into Mendax, which is a new goblin PC being played by Brendan Johnson, aka Bijo. He's joined me on some of these prep sessions you might have seen. And he goes by Silent Ranger, I think, on Twitch. And long story short, he's been watching my campaigns, the other one we were playing, the Hell's Vengeance campaign, for years. And he jumped into this one. He's been kind of present in the prep sessions. And I think he has a Saturday night game, same time as ours, that is winding down. So he started saying, hey, maybe I can join yours if that's finished. And I said, as long as you can separate your your knowledge you have from the prep sessions and what you have your character knows, we can go with that. And I think eventually he's going to stop coming to the prep sessions, which is sad. He's like one of my handful of viewers. And then he won't know what's going on. So yeah, so the players met Mendax. He came off the boat, and they helped him unload a bunch of stuff, and they were talking. And long story short, he's a goblin, they're goblins, so they became somewhat friendly. And Mendax started following him around. So Mendax has a decent backstory. You should definitely check it out. He talked about it a bunch in the session. But one of the bits is that he was he didn't end up here on purpose. He was kind of roguish and doing illegal stuff back in the human homeland. And he crossed the wrong people, and they beat the crap out of him, knocked him unconscious, and put him in a box on the ship, essentially. They basically threw him in cargo, and he ended up here. And when they found him out, they kind of pressed him into service, said, you have to join the army, or we're going to throw you off the boat on the way over. So he joined the army, and he was looking for a way out, and the way out was, well, I'm going to follow these goblins, and I'm going to get out of this shit town. So he came and hung out. The party saw as the humans basically started moving into places. So the whole time the party was here with the smaller group of humans, they kept telling the elves, oh, we're putting you in this tavern temporarily. You're all going to stay here while we figure out what's going on. The darkness is still here. It's blah, blah, blah. And when the humans got here, the humans just started moving into the buildings. Like, oh, there's a smithy here? Okay, fine. I'm a human smithy. I'm gonna settle here. So the elves started seeing the humans taking all their houses and their stuff, and they voiced concerns, and the goblins were able to calm them down and essentially just left. So they calmed them down. They said, this is going to be okay. They're here to help us fight the darkness, blah, blah. And they were managed to navigate that social awkwardness, and then they just, left the next day. So before they left, like I was saying before, they had a big, Opilius said, here's the new plan, here's where we're going to this big elf city. The name doesn't even matter. I wrote all this stuff in this not backstory, but I wrote all this fluff to kind of give them the impression of, we're doing this leapfrogging from island to island. I forget, with an M, I forget the name of the elven town. We're going to this elven city next. It's this many people live here. It's a big city. It's a proper city. You guys did great. We're going to leave the morning after next. Tonight is a night for celebration. And he brought out elven wine and elven whiskey. And he said, just drink, then spend tomorrow recovering and preparing to leave, and then we leave the next morning. And the party drank, and they had some fun. They were talking with some more of the troops. And they did a really good job playing up their accomplishments, both theirs and also Opilius's. And they had a little bit of a strife with Opilius. Again, Opilius didn't like the way they did the plays, and they were saying he doesn't understand what we're doing. So they didn't talk a lot about it, but they definitely were beginning to think with it. How long do we really want to be with Opilius? Do we like what he's doing? For a while, I was terrified that they might just leave. Before all this happened, Squirrel, the ranger, was trying to talk them into not coming back to town. He's like, hey, I'm not sure the town is safe for us. We can just hang out in the forest. What are we doing? Why are we even going to go back? And I was worried they'd just be wandering around the elf woods by themselves away from the story. But they came back, and it all worked out. So yeah, they drank. They had fun. Mendax got to roleplay. He kind of snuck into that meeting. Again, the meeting was for the upper echelon of the troops. But the way that Opilius framed it was I need this guy, that guy, this guy, and the goblins. Because the goblins are one of his best strike teams. They go out into the woods. They, for whatever reason, they're doing really well. They captured the city almost single-handed. Before anybody else showed up, they were managed to do it. And they retrieved the leader of the killed. They left him alive, but say they killed the leader of the resistance. They did all these things, and they're the best troops that Opilius has. So he invited the goblins. And Mendax kind of just walked in behind them, and no one questioned it. Not even Opilius, who was sitting there, talking to everybody at the table, going over the plan, didn't seem to care that, Mendax wasn't one of the goblins that was there before. Maybe he didn't notice. Maybe he's doesn't see the differences in goblins. Maybe he thinks all goblins look the same. But whatever happened, Mendax got into the meeting and got the plan. So blah blah blah, yakety schmackety. They go ahead and they go to the docks, and they see the new ship, and all the people come off, blah, 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 all that happened, and they are leaving now. So they get on the boat, and we have the whole storm and stuff like that. And it was really cool. I had, I don't think I ever showed this in the prep session. I only did this on, what map was it? Oh, it's under boats, right? Ships? Yeah. So I had this cool thing where it has all these weather effects, and it has nighttime and stuff like that. So like it's raining, and let me see if I stop this. I think at this time I was playing I don't remember what I was playing. The sea ambiance. No, ambiance. I was playing heavy rain, ship and storm. So basically I had this whole scene set up where I was basically saying the weather was getting worse and worse. They sailed out for a while. They were hours away from the coast, and they started seeing this. I had Frankko and G-Pain, who have sailing lore, and I think Mendax also had it. I had them make sailing lore checks, and they were participating in the attempts to right the ship, but it was essentially a lost cause. Gods already wanted to mess them up. So there was this big narrative scene where I was basically just talking for 20 minutes, explaining what was happening to them and how they were running around trying to save people. And there was this cool soundboard thing where I have this lighting thing set up, and this was a tutorial I think I got from the Cobalt DM on YouTube, who does a bunch of cool kind of tutorials. I set up this, where are we? There should be more weather effects, but there's not. I guess when I updated it, it changed. But if I mash this Dry Thunder, does that work? No. Well, I had more thunder effects, and when I was playing them, the lightning would show. That's really... Oh, well, I guess it's the default one of bundled sounds. No, maybe not. Clear sounds? No. That's annoying and sad. Yeah. Anyway, so whenever I would do the thunder, it would actually show the lightning, and I'm really sad now. If I do that, it's gonna work. It's not even working. I wonder what's going on. None of the sounds are playing at all. Maybe the mod, when I updated, maybe it didn't like it. It was not happy. Yeah. I'm betting on I just recently updated Foundry. I'm betting on something not working right. Anyway, so whenever I had the sound effect, the thunder would trigger lightning. So it was really cool seeing. The players all loved it. Oh, things are playing now, like on a delay. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, but yeah, it is what it is. So we had this whole scene. They liked it, and we ended the scene with them going, to darkness. We just cut to darkness. It was just nothing. And I thought that was okay. Again, that 20 minutes in the middle killed me. I don't know I don't know what I expected or what was going on. But essentially, I set up the scene was that they had a week and a half. I set that up, and the players said, okay, well, we can do whatever we want in this week and a half. And I was not ready for them to do what they did. I don't think I was ready for them to do anything. Again, I didn't think ahead. I didn't think, if I give them a week and a half, what would they do? And I didn't have anything prepared. Like, if they just wanted to say, okay, let's walk out to the woods. Let's go look for more elves. Like, I had nothing prepared, and now that's just dumb. Whenever you set up a scene, whenever you give players time, whenever you set a scale, you have to have something to do. There has to be a point to doing it, I guess, is what my friend Nate said, and my other GM friends. Whenever you set up a scene like that, why are you doing it? Like, basically, what's going on, and why does this exist at all in the scene? So it is what it is, and again, I felt bad about it for like a week, and it was pretty terrible. So what's going on? Why is my start screen not loading? None of my things are loading. It appears as though there it goes. All right. Oh, all my sounds are now coming like 3 minutes later. That's the cicada noise. I don't know why the soundboard was lagging that long. Lots of things appear to be lagging. Like, I'm clicking to different scenes and it's just not going. I'm a little worried now about the, like I said, I just updated my Foundry from 70-something to 80-something. Required a new Node.js install. And everything's going slow today. Little irksome. Now you get that cool cicada music. But I don't really want to try to stop. I want to just let it finish. Because I don't want to hit the stop button and have the stop button take a minute. Eventually, Washed Up is going to load. I don't know what the heck is taking so long. and we can talk about the last session we played. While it's loading, the gist is that, again, we finally got to the Odyssey. We're at session 10 we were officially in the Odyssey. The Goblodyssey, because they're goblins in the Odyssey, is what I've been saying. We're officially there, and long story short, the idea is that they're going to go from island to island, at least in the beginning part, before I start building to a bigger campaign idea. There's just a bunch of weird islands around, and they can move around and visit the islands, visit the people who live there, and figure out the interactions between these people, and start doing stuff, doing quests and things like that. The first island is based on Circe from the Odyssey. I think I called her Kirkee, which is, I think, the Greek pronunciation of her name. And I wanted to kind of give a throwback to people who might know the Odyssey or might know what's going on. So I called it Kirkee's Island, but I really don't know why this is not. Like, it's stuck at 91%, and this is irritating me. I'm going to close it, and I'm just going to reopen it. And hopefully it does something this time. All right. 11, make it full screen. Come on. Definitely feels slower. I don't know. What's that error about? It's not roll tables. Pathfinder roll tables had an error. All right, is washed up going to load? Cool. All right, it's fast again. Hopefully this is an ongoing problem. So, this was where they washed up. And long story short, they were here. They were awoken to the feeling of someone trying to, like, loot them, essentially. They thought they were dead. And there was this gremlin and these wolf-fae, which were pugwumpies. And they were trying to take the weapons off them, take some of the items off of them. So they all woke up to, like, like Squirrel the Ranger has a crossbow on, like a sash or whatever. And he just felt something, like, yanking at him, like, trying to get it off. And this was kind of a palate cleanser, whatever you want to call it. Like, this was not a trivial encounter, but a low-level encounter, which was supposed to make it, like, kind of get everybody back into the swing of things. They didn't do any fighting for the last 2 sessions, so I wanted to throw a lot of meat at them in the beginning of this session. So we just jumped right into, like, you wake up, you're being attacked, basically. Like, they're looting you, they're trying to take your stuff, and when they realize you're alive, one of the wolf-fae, one of the pugwumpies, attacks you. I went for where is it? Kirkee's Island. So I had this beach ambiance. Like, so this was playing while I was doing the introduction, and, like, you wake up, blah 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 blah, and then I added on top of it this washed up fight music, right? And, like, this music is silly, and it's supposed to be, like, it starts off normal, right? And then it gets into, like, the oompa, like. And the gimmick with pugwumpies is they have this unluck aura, which basically means you make a will save, and you have to roll twice. And if you fail it, you have to roll all of your checks twice. And checks in D&D, checks in Pathfinder 2E are basically all your rolls. Attacks are checks, saves are checks, skills are checks. So essentially, anytime you roll a D20, you need to roll it twice. And pugwumpies are not good at all. Like, they can barely attack. We can pull up some stats right here, right? I call them dog fae or wolf fae in the campaign, just so people didn't know what they were. But, like, they don't hit very well. When they do hit, they do 1d6 minus 3. So, like, they're doing, like, 1 to 3 damage, unless they crit. Their short bow is a bit better. But for primarily, I didn't want this to be, like, an optimized fight. I had one of them using a bow up here on the rock, and Squirrel got in his face real quick and stopped that. But basically, the gimmick was that they're not very good, but also because of their unluck aura, the party's not very good either. And it's a silly fight. That's why I had this weird, silly, kind of cartoony music going on. And it played out kind of how I wanted it to. It was very nice in that the party definitely had the upper hand, and when they hit, they just decimated these things. They were destroying them, but sometimes it took them like 2 or 3 rounds to get a hit on them because of the unlock aura. And they had a lot of funny things where people were tripping over stuff and things like that. So it was a good palate cleanser of a fight. There was this gremlin, which is a Jenkin. And I made it an elite Jenkin, so it's actually a level 1 creature, which is still a level under the party. He just had, a bunch of AC, and hit points on his bones to make him a little bit harder, make him last a bit longer, and be more of a problem. So he was fun. Not all that interesting. He has sneak attack, so he has a short sword. He failed that roll. So he was actually, a little bit decent. He does 1d6 damage, and he had sneak attack, which he got off 1 or 2 of, which was great. So he did get Frankko. He stabbed him pretty good once or twice. But in general, this wasn't a very threatening fight, and it wasn't supposed to be. That was the gimmick, right? So we did that. They had a lot of fun. Puck bandaged him up now. He's got medicine. He's got one of those skill feats for medicine, so he's doing a good job. And when they were looking around, they didn't find a whole lot of supplies, but one of the important things they found was that the Gremlin had Oryx's axe on its back. One of the dwarves that was among the old troop, his axe was on the Gremlin. So now Oryx is part of Even's backstory. Even was kind of like adopted by the elves, by the dwarves. I am tired. Even was adopted by the dwarves, especially Oryx. So finding this axe was a big deal. So it was a big deal, and he started calling out, doing bird whistles, like hunting whistles, trying to find Oryx, but he didn't find anything. So they looted whatever else they found. They found some healing potions, they found some wine, stuff like that, but nothing all that important. And they headed out, and they realized, hey, we're super thirsty, and we need to find some water. And Squirrel said, he's the ranger, he's a woodland ranger, and he saw a big forest, and he's like, okay, there's no fresh water here, we need to head in and we'll find it. And there's not a lot of elevation here, so there's very unlikely to be flowing rivers and stuff like that, so they're basically just looking for an oasis or a lake or whatever it is. Then they head in, and they spend some time moving through the woods, and I made a point of noting that the woods are teeming with life. There's tons of animals of all kinds. They see deer, they see small little mammals running around, they see lizards, they see birds. Even before they left the beach, he foraged and found a bunch of crabs. And during the journey through the woods, I just made a point of noting, especially to Even, whose mind is always on foraging. Basically, as he's walking, he's foraging. He's got a forager skill feat as he's moving through the woods, the jungle, whatever you want to call it. He is constantly looking for food. And he just sees it. This is the most populated forest he's ever seen. And, the gimmick, for those of you paying attention, for those of you that might know the Odyssey, is that Kirkee turns people into animals. She has a knowledge of herbalism and alchemy. Through basically poisoned food, she polymorphs people into animals. And I'm just kind of saying that this is a super populated, animal-populated island. I mentioned on the beach that they saw, there were other shipwrecks. Most of it were kind of too beat up. There's not a giant shipwreck they could see, but there's wreckage there that's not their boat. So it appears as though whatever happened to them happens to other people as well. So they went through and they did all this stuff, and they're like, okay, we're gonna go through the woods. So they keep walking. And Squirrel makes some survival checks, and I think Even made the assist checks. And Even's first assist check was not a natural one, but a really bad failure. So basically, Even was pointing out the wrong things. I think based on this tree, the way the tree's growing, that the water's that way. And Squirrel is certain he's wrong. So Squirrel's role-playing, I think you might be right, but I want to try this first. And he did it very tactfully. He didn't just call him an idiot. And made his way. And one of the first things I did was I got to this fallen tree before they get to before they get to the water source. I did this fallen tree, and this was not something I had planned in my previous sessions. I think that I have 1 or 2 videos where I'm talking about what they're going to do on Kirkee's Island, and that washed up fight we just saw on the beach. We talked about that before. I planned that live in one of these sessions. This fight I did not plan until I think the night before the session. And the reason I planned it was kind of the same thing I told you before, in that we didn't have a combat for 2.5, maybe even 3 full sessions. And I really wanted to just throw them meat. I wanted them to have more fights. I wanted them to show off what they got. So the first one, again, palate cleanser, low threat fight. It's funny. The pugwumpies are stupid, but very easy to kill in the end. And this one was a little more serious. So when they came in, I'm from Maryland. Well, I'm living in Maryland. I'm from New York. And a lot of the players that were playing this night were from Maryland and the New York area. So we have cicadas now. I don't know where you guys are all from, but we have cicadas, and it's a big deal. Brood X, whatever you want to call it. There's a crap ton of cicadas around. So I brought that into the campaign where we had these cicada swarms. So Squirrel was scouting ahead, and the rest of the party is like 50 feet behind him, kind of just chilling out. And I essentially just said, "Oh, this swarms of cicadas come out of the woods." And something riled them up, and they're kind of just all over the place, and they're crawling all over you. And everybody had to make a knowledge check or a relevant lore skill, whatever you want to make, basically a nature check or a lore check to would you know what cicadas are? And Squirrel was the only one who made it. Everybody else failed. So for Squirrel's like, oh, whatever. These are harmless little bugs. But he's 50 feet from everybody else. He's up in the front, and everybody else is just swarmed by hundreds of these thumb-sized tiny little bugs with big red eyes and just crawling all over them, buzzing around, and there's this horrible chirping noise, and they're freaking out. So they don't know what they are. They don't know they're harmless. So they have to make a will save to be reviled and or frightened by these things. And I think Puck failed it. I think Even failed it. I forget. And I don't know. G-Pain and Frankko were also there. I think 3 or 4 of them failed. I think 3 of them failed it, and 1 of them made it down there. But Even he was disgusted, but still eating, because again, Even he starved a bunch in his backstory. So his whole thing is that he's always eating or collecting food. So even though these bugs were crawling on him and he was visibly shaken by them, he was still cramming them in his mouth. Puck, however, freaked out, and Puck basically was trying to run out of the swarm. He was running up towards Squirrel. So Squirrel's moving sneakily through the woods, and Puck is just bounding out behind him, shouting. And Squirrel turns to him to say what the hell's going on, to kind of admonish him when the fight starts. And basically there was this snapping fly trap which he failed to notice. He had made a perception check earlier. Failed to notice the snapping fly trap, which is a really cool monster. So I have some art, right? If I go here, Odyssey, Kirkee, snapping fly trap. So they look really cool. They have 2 mouths, and they bite, and they swallow you whole if they can. And so again, he got the surprise. The fly trap got the surprise round, and I knew this is the level 3 creature, so this is a level above them. So it's not. This is a above normal, slightly above normal ranged encounter, and because I got the drop on them, it was really surprising. And it crit, so I forgot. I basically it got to act a full round ahead of everybody else before it wanted did stuff. But it crit on its first attack, and its crit damage. I forgot what it did at the time, but it's not a joke. It's 1d8 plus 2 plus 1d6 acid damage, and then doubled up. I hit probably about that, 14, 18, something like that. And Squirrel only has 30 hit points, so it was a very big hit right off the bat. And when it hits, it has improved grab. And in Pathfinder 2, improved grab isn't oh, you make a grapple check. You just grab them. It's in Pathfinder 2. One of the cool design decisions in Pathfinder 2 is they want to reduce the amount of times you're rolling dice. They want you to be just in it. They want things to move much quicker in combat. So he got crit bit and put in the mouth of this thing. And I think I could have technically tried to swallow him whole there, because I would have had another action. But I didn't. Did I? I don't think I did. I might have, actually. I'm thinking about it now. I might have. Because I'm very early in the combat, he was swallowed whole. Oh, I think what happens, I said, no, you know what, you're not swallowed whole. But then we rolled initiative, and the fly trap ended up going first or second in the initiative anyway. So basically, Squirrel got crit bit, and then he got squoze or bit or whatever it was again, and swallowed whole. So the combat essentially started with one of the goblins inside the fly trap. And he was very beaten up, as you would expect. He got crit first and hit again. So he was pretty badly beat up. So it quickly became he's inside stabbing at it with a dagger. Puck came up and took his shears. He's a barber. He's got shears as a primary weapon. He came up and cut a hole in it and then tried to heal Squirrel through it. Basically ripped a hole in the mouth of the fly trap and shoved his arm in to heal Squirrel, which I thought was really awesome. And then Even was there hacking at it, and Frankko was poking at it, and G-Pain was mostly I think he was buffing the party, giving them bard songs and stuff like that. And they did this all while fatigued and frightened, and they had all these penalties in their rolls. And they saved Squirrel. I did not pull punches. I told them after 2nd level, it's happening now. I roll pretty much everything publicly. There's very few things I roll privately. I roll attacks and damage publicly, and I don't pull punches. There was a time in one of the earlier sessions where Even died because there was a mage that was a pretty horrible threat to them, and Even didn't take it as seriously as he maybe should have. And he ended up getting burned by a flaming sphere and trying to dodge out of it and ended up getting burned again and had a bad time. And I gave him that one. I basically, took away some hero points, or he didn't have any on him, so he paid them later. Essentially, I kind of coddled him a bit. That's what it came down to. But yeah, I said after second level, you guys leveled up. Training wheels are off. This is it. You guys know how to play Pathfinder 2 now. We're still learning, but we all know. So yeah, so basically, Squirrel was down. I forgot how many hit points he was at, but between Puck doing that, and I think at some point even cut out the bottom of it, so he was able to get out. Then G-Pain used Soothe or something like that. So between the two of them, they kept him alive long enough, and they killed the flytrap. And this was a really fun, really terrifying encounter. And it started off with something really stupid. I threw out the cicadas, and I played that cicada noise. I don't want to play it again in case the soundboard is what caused the lag last time. But I played those annoying cicada noises, and everybody's like, oh, ha, 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 how topical. Oh, you have cicadas in the story. And, it was obvious that the cicadas weren't a threat. They were just like, oh, we're disgusted by them, we're frightened, it's fine. And they had a little fun role-playing it. And I'm like, and you wander into the flytrap. And the flytrap was a really big deal. So I had a lot of good time with this fight. This was pretty fun. I definitely think the players enjoyed it, and I think, like I said before, the first fight was the palate cleanser, just getting back into it, and this was the, oh crap, this is a real fight. This is a problem. So I think we had a good time with this one. And they got through it, and that was it. And they kept going, made some more survival checks, and they ended up here at the watering hole. And I forgot to switch to my Fey Presence music. This was like you're meeting a fairy music. But yeah, so they get to the watering hole, and they see a bunch of animals there. And again, there's tons of animals. They saw like a stag along the way. They decided not to hunt it because I think even in Squirrel both estimated that a stag would be a potential threat. Like, it's not just like, oh, you shoot the stag and you got him. Like, no, if you're shooting a stag, you're probably going to end up fighting the stag, and it's going to be a dangerous fight. So they avoided that. They came here. They saw a bunch of little animals drinking the water. They figured the water was okay. They got themselves some water, and they started to rest. So it's still like the middle of the day. I think it's like they failed their nature checks to know what time of day it was. So I think it's actually the early afternoon, but they don't know that. They think it's sometime around noon. So they're like a couple hours off. But basically, because they're fatigued, they basically washed ashore, and they're exhausted. They decided, we're just going to sleep in the middle of the day. We're going to set a watch, and basically, we're going to sleep through the entire next night. And they had it set up, so I think G-Pain and Puck, I think, we're going to sleep first, I forget. Or G-Pain, G-Pain and Even. Somebody was sleeping. Two of them were sleeping, and three of them were awake on watch. And Squirrel went around, and they were looking around this watering hole. In addition to all the animal footprints they found, they saw that there were humanoid footprints, like wearing shoes, essentially, on the north side that moved up to like the northwest. And they didn't follow it all the way, but they saw there was a clear path that it appeared as though there was a human walking this way. And Squirrel set up some snares on it, essentially. He has these alarm snares. So basically, if someone came close enough to the grove, or to the watering hole through this path, hopefully, if they didn't see the snare, they would be alerted. And that's what happened. So they were resting, and they heard the snare go off. So Squirrel and Frankko went to sneak up, and Frankko did okay, and Squirrel did badly. I think is how that worked. I think Squirrel did really badly against the perception check. She's got a pretty good passive perception. And they saw this beautiful robed woman, who also saw Squirrel. So she was basically she was riding a lion, and she was hopped off it for a moment to kind of look down at the snare that was triggered when the lion walked over it. And then as Squirrel was moving in the trees, she turns and looks right at him. And he introduces himself, and he's not being aggressive or overly sneaky because he realizes he's been made. And they start talking for a bit, and she continues on her way. Essentially, they talk for a bit, and she realizes he's not much of a threat. I'm trying to play up the fact that she does not think they're a threat because they're not to her. I mean, she's a creature 6. I mean, I'm sure they could kill her if they tried. They're clever players. I'm sure they could. But I want to, and she has a pet lion. So I'm trying to play up the fact that she doesn't really mind that they're there or care much about them. So as they're talking, she continues on her way. She went to the water with her lion, and the lion has not like a saddle, but kind of just like a leather strap thing that has 2 big jugs on it that she filled up with water. essentially implying that, you know, she rides this lion or another animal down to the water every day, the well every day, whatever, the watering hole, and she picks up her water and she leaves. So they're having a conversation, and they ask about the Fae, and she says that they're nasty creatures. They ask how that, like, you know, who else is on the island. They said she's the only person on this island. That she's had visitors before, but she's currently the only person on this island. She asks where they came from. They essentially say far away, and they have, you know, a good back and forth. And they don't get a whole lot of information out of her, except for the fact that she says she's a friend to all nature. She laughs when Squirrel tells her his name. She asks, you know, like, oh, like, we should be good friends then. I'm friends to all the woodland creatures, and they laugh a little bit. And when Puck comes out of the woods, like, he hears the conversation. He stumbles out of the woods, as Puck is often wont to do. She asks, who's this? Is this Bunny? What was this one's name? And I had a lot of fun kind of role-playing her as being, like, aloof and, like, very sure of herself in the situation. And when she finished her work, she went to leave. She, you know, tapped the lion on the back and got back on him, and was like, oh, just heading north. And she invited them all to her villa. Like, you know, if you were ready, if you will come on to visit me, you know, follow this trail, and my villa's there. You are all welcome to stay at my villa. And they were a little reluctant, obviously. Stranger in the woods inviting you back to their house. So they said, we may join you. And that's where we called the session. So I feel like this one went great. Like I said, I had that 20-minute period in the session before this where I felt terrible, and it kind of soured me on the whole thing, and I, you know, questioned, why am I being a GM at all? What's going on? But this session went really, really well. The combats hit. They were good. They did what they intended to do. There was some really good role-playing between the players, and I think this scene went really well. We got this idea, and I think Nas knows who Kirkee is. I'm pretty sure Nas knows the whole thing. I think Nas picked up on it. I don't know how well-read the other players are, and I say well-read, but, you know, the Odyssey. But, like, you were assigned it in high school, or you weren't, I guess. And yeah, so we'll see who knows what and where they're going to go with it. But the idea going forward, if you watch the previous sessions, is that this person turns people into animals with food or wine that's been enhanced with herbs. And some of their old crew has been turned in this way. The lion she's riding is Opilius. And that's going to be a thing later, and it's going to be... I wrote that he's a graying lion, and Opilius has graying hair. I got to find out something else distinctive about Opilius that I think they would notice. Here's a picture of Opilius that I gave them. Like, so basically I'm trying to figure out, like, again, I made him graying. Nothing else. He doesn't have any tattoos. He's not wearing any visible jewelry that I guess he has the wristbands, but that would be a little obvious. So I was trying to think, is there anything else I could have on him? Maybe have this pattern repeat somewhere in the lion's fur or something like that. Be something to give it away. But they didn't notice that yet. So the gimmick is that, you know, this lion is Opilius, and a bunch of their other troop have been turned into animals all throughout the island. And they're going to stumble into or onto this fact if they want to. So that's kind of where that story's going. She's going back to her villa now, and the party's going to pick up here and figure out what's going to go on. So I hope they go back to the villa. I figure they're going to rest. I don't think they're going to go to a stranger's house exhausted and stuff like that. So I think they're going to sleep the entire night. Probably. I'm not going to throw a nighttime fight at them. I don't roll randomly for those all the time. I did some Hexploration adventures where I did do that, where like I'd roll randomly. Oh, you're entering a hex, you're exploring. Okay, we roll random encounters. And then at night, how many watches are there? I'm going to roll random encounters. And those are fun for certain types of games, but I'm not, like... I don't want to just throw random stuff at people. And I don't want to... I guess I should have some stuff ready like that. I should have random stuff ready if they're going to be camping for multiple days at a time. But I don't really want to have, like, a table of things and have to build encounters on the fly and things like that. I don't want to have that ready. So I'm not going to throw something at them at night. They're going to go, and I hope go to the villa, or not. So I have to figure out... The or not is what scares me, because in my plan, they go to the villa. It's over here. And the lighting effects are too bright now. I patched, and they're too bright now, so I gotta figure out what to do about that. I'm gonna have to tweak that. Is there, like, color intensity? Can I set this to? Yeah. Can I select multiple light sources? Does not appear as though I can. That is frustrating. Alright. Alright. So, again... It's annoying. especially because it's not even like nighttime or whatever you want to call it. Like just, I guess the light source even during the day counts as being on. So yeah, so this is her villa, and I spent some time talking about it just a little bit in one of the previous prep sessions, but we can go into it a bit more. And it's going to be described as being somewhat forested. Like if you look, there's a bunch of trees on the map, but also I'm going to describe like there's vines all over the place. And that it is, just like the forest around it, very much populated by animals. So when they come in, they're going to notice like there's monkeys climbing the vines on the wall, and there's this beautiful koi pond in the entrance and stuff like that. And you know, this island, including this villa, is just teeming with life. And I just want to keep reinforcing that, like, because most of these animals, if not all of them, are people. And the players are probably going to figure that out, and then they're going to decide what the heck they want to do about that. So yeah, I'm almost done updating these lights to have less color. So yeah, so my hope, my plan is that they come here and they talk with Kirkee some more. So Kirkee's gonna be very polite and nice with them, and she's going to feed them food, and she believes that they will be turned into animals when they eat it. But for some reason, I'm just gonna hand wave, little Deus Ex Machina, the goblins are immune to herbs. So the goblins will not turn into animals, and this will not enrage her. This will kind of intrigue her. She wants to know why. She's, above all else, she's kind of like a, you know, an herbalist, an alchemist. She wants to know why these goblins are immune to her magic, and she wants to hang out and talk to them and maybe study them, or maybe just try different foods on them and see if eventually one of them works. Try different herbs. So yeah, so that's kind of the gimmick there. And she is going to be a good host. And again, I have like the lions in here, and Kirkee's here, and I need to set up some more things. So I made like Ish, who I think is a halfling chef, and Hibba is a human butler. And while the players are here, they're going to see that there's nobody here. Like, they're going to come in the first time, no one's going to be here. And she's going to invite them to dinner, and when it's dinner time, Hibba, Ish, this halfling chef, is going to show up. I think it's actually a gnome. I keep saying that I took notes. I have notes. Kirkee's Manor. Ish, a gnome with golden eyes. So basically, I want to know as they're coming in, when they see these koi fish, I'm gonna have them note that one of them has like beautiful golden eyes. Like, you know, this is obviously a very well put together koi pond. The fish are beautiful. One of them has striking golden eyes. And then later, they go inside and there's nobody here. And Kirkee has described herself as being the only person on the island. But later, when it's dinner time, when it's time to eat, a gnome is gonna come out of nowhere with striking golden eyes. And I feel like I want to bury that a bit. I don't want to be beating them over the head with it. I don't want to be like, the only thing you hear is striking golden eyes, and you hear again striking golden eyes. I need to talk about that. I need to describe more of the animals and more of the nature. I need to kind of build up more of a narrative around the place and have that be one of the facts that they can see. I don't want it to be like, oh yeah, you said that twice. I want someone to feel special or smart. I don't know what to say about it, but I want people to figure it out. But yeah, so like later that day, they'll see a gnome with golden eyes. And if they go back to the koi pond, that fish will be missing. And the gimmick is that Kirkee turns people into animals, and that she has a potion or an herb, or whatever it is, that turns you back into a person for a short period of time, 8 hours a day, whatever it ends up being. So basically, she has all of these people. Some of them are her servants or her friends, and she can turn them back into people as she wishes, and in a limited capacity. So like, you know, if you're this gnome and you're brought back for 8 hours because she needs you to serve dinner, you're not really gonna escape, because even if you got on a boat, with there aren't any boats, even if you built a boat, got on the boat, and sailed out to sea, 8 hours later you're turning back into a fish. And I don't know. Again, maybe that's better than being in the pond. I don't know what you want to say, but a lot of the people, when they become people again, don't resist because they know what will happen to them if they do. So yeah, so basically she has a bunch of these people that are turned into animals that she uses as servants, and I'm kind of going to hint at that. I'm going to show this is going to happen. And then I don't know what I'm going to do with Hibba, the male butler, the human butler, but I think I forgot what I said about him. Very differential. Gonna be one of the small monkeys in the trees of the villa. Again, I don't know if I need to have like a tell. I need to have like something that shows off like the eyes or like the way his hair looks or his nose. Maybe he has a crooked nose. That's a great idea, Joe. Write that down. Write that down. A crooked nose that they can notice on a monkey after. Yeah, so maybe they don't see, because like you're not really looking at monkeys' noses, but like so maybe this is one that happens in reverse. You see the person, and then when you see the monkey again, you see the distinctively crooked nose. You say that's weird, and you know you get the hint that this is happening. So Kirkee's here. She's very nice, very differential. She will give them not different. She's very accommodating. She invites them to dinner. They can have dinner here. She gives them rooms. So like there's 2 guest rooms. There and there. There's 2 servant rooms, which are going to be conspicuously empty. No matter what they do, they're going to go to the servant room at any time of the day, and there's never going to be a servant in there, essentially. Servants are going to be doing things, or they're going to be animals. They're not going to be sleeping in their room. So again, it's another thing they can do. If they want to sneak around at night and look around, they can figure this out. They can do a little investigation here in the manor. And in that vein, so the reason we have light sources is because we do have a nighttime mode, right? And we have, what is it, jungle evening here. Kind of crickety. So the villa is mostly lit. I think I want to play with the animation speed. It's getting a little jumpy. Or maybe change it so they're a bit wider. But yeah, so, the torches are going at night. And Kirkee will sleep. Kirkee goes to sleep. And Kirkee is not going to sleep in her bed, though. So Kirkee, at least the one that I made, is actually a water nymph. So she's going to sleep in her giant bathtub room, right? And it's a good thing I noticed this, because I do want to lock all these. So this entire half of the villa, or third of the villa, when I call this entire side of the villa, is locked. So like when they try to go into Kirkee's room, it's locked. They try to go in here. It looks kind of like a business office with lots of scrolls. I'm just going to hand wave it and say that it's essentially an herbalist or alchemist lab. And I'll describe it differently when they go into it. So this is all locked, and if they break into these rooms, they can look around and figure stuff out. There's not like a big red sign that says like I'm turning people into animals. Like if they look through the notes and the herbs and stuff like that, they probably won't be able to figure that out. I don't know how big a hint I would want to give in that capacity, but there is a lab that basically identifies her as an alchemist or an herbalist, and they can look through over some of the recipes and figure out a little bit of what's going on. If they go into her room, she won't be sleeping there. She's going to be sleeping in the water as a water nymph. So if they burst into this bath, they'll find her there, and this will be not good for them. Kirkee's not going to like being seen in the bath, I guess. And the lion's going to be with her the whole time, in case they get an idea of attacking her, is 1. And 2, just to kind of reinforce that this is like a favored pet. Opilius has basically become something of an interest to her during the... Again, this didn't happen in his character, obviously, but at some point, like, Opilius washed up on this shore before the goblins did, maybe a day ago, maybe days ago. The goblins don't really know how long they were unconscious. But Opilius was here. Kirkee invited him here, gave him food, gave him wine, had conversation, enjoyed his company, and essentially turned him into a lion. I hadn't decided if Kirkee can choose what you are, or if it's kind of like a representation of what you are, who you are as a person. I think the latter is more fun, because I want to have the dwarves who are gluttonous in the previous sessions. I want to have them be boars, and I want to have Opilius be a lion. So essentially, like, the kind of person you are defines a little bit about the animal you turn into. Yeah, that's kind of the gimmick here. And Opilius is there the whole time, so this is like one of her favored pets now. And he's not broken yet, so he can't be like let out all the time. But maybe Kirkee gives him like a small dab and lets him come back for an hour, and then he's getting the feel for the situation. I don't want that to happen when the goblins are present. Obviously, I don't want to say, "Oh, your boss is back over here." I'd like them to kind of figure it out. We'll find out what happens. But again, Kirkee is a great host and essentially says that they can stay as long as they want. They asked her once, like, how do you get off the island? and she essentially said you have to sail or fly or move between the spaces, and they didn't know what that meant, but then Puck figured it out. That she's basically saying that some of the Fae in this realm can move at, between the first world and the material plane and things like that, and that, in Lift you can do stuff like that, essentially talking about higher level magic. She's not just a normal, a plain commoner talking about things like this. She just, like, in passing said, oh yeah, if you can teleport around, you can get off this island, implying again that she has at least some knowledge and some experience in things like that. So that's where we're at. And I think, I hope they're going to come here. I hope they spend the night. I hope they talk. And Kirkee will have them as long as they want to stay. The first night, I'm going to have them eat goat that they already have on site. Basically, they have some dinner already prepared. And then if they stay the day and continue talking with Kirkee, I'm going to have her ask if they would be so kind as to go acquire something for dinner. And I guess I'm not sure I want to push them to get a boar, or maybe, like, she'll say, like, she wants some pork or something like that. But yeah, I want to kind of guide them to the idea of, oh, you can find a boar. So yeah, I think I'm just gonna be heavy-handed and kind of just say that, like, I prefer some pork for dinner. What about you? And then they can go forwards for some pork. And that will lead into the pig hunt scene, which I think we've talked about a bunch on the prep session. So this is going to be a skill check, and essentially this art is from Weeby Goblins. I forget which one. I think there's like 4 or 5 of them now. The Pathfinder free Goblin adventure that comes out every day on free RPG day or free comic day. I forget which one it is. But yeah, so essentially this is basically a skill check where you need to make some skill checks, but you need to make whatever it is. I have 8 successes before you get 4 failures is the gimmick. And I need to have some silly music, like, because, like, I want this to be like another, like, a funny scene, and I can't really use the same one we had here. Like, the washed up fight doesn't make sense here. But yeah, like, I want it to be kind of like a silly scene where it starts off like they're making survival checks to track the thing, or nature checks to track a boar, and those should be pretty easy, and Squirrel can make them. But the rules for skill checks that I was looking at, like, based on the rules for 4E and based on Matt Coville's stuff, essentially say you don't want one player to dominate. It's very obvious that Squirrel is the best nature-y guy, best survival-y guy. Even's pretty high up there too. He's really good at foraging specifically. So you think, like, those two would kind of dominate, and you don't want to leave the other characters out in the cold. You don't want Frankko to feel like he's not doing anything. You don't want G Payne or whoever else, Puck, to kind of not participate in the hunt. So they basically have a rule that everybody has to go before someone can go again. That's kind of what Matt Coville was talking about. So, like, like, Squirrel can help. He can go ahead and do the beginning survival, and then, like, what do you do when you get closer? And everybody else has to help. And you don't want it to be the same. You don't want everybody making a nature check to track the thing. You want to have, you want it to change a little bit. And we had a chase scene in a previous session that went really well. Everybody loved the idea of using skills to kind of get around obstacles and stuff like that. And I figured that'd be cool. Let's do the same sort of thing here. Like, you're hunting a boar. What do you do? And in my mind, I was like, okay, so they're, maybe it'd be funny, like, at the end, if they're trying to, like, wrestle the boar, capture the boar, something like that. Something silly. But I don't know what they're actually going to do. So when I was thinking about this, like, and at a high level, like, oh yeah, they'll just make skill checks. And I'm trying to figure out what skills could we actually use. So, like, obviously survival and nature and perception, that's all, like, finding it, looking at it, making, like, discerning where it is. And then, like, what? You can do athletics to grab it. You can try ranged attacks to shoot at it. And what else do you want to do? If you're assuming we want to have, like, again, an 8 skill check competition, or what do you want to call it, you got to do more. What else could we possibly do? So yeah, so I'm not sure exactly what else I can add here. And if there's anybody on the stream, feel free to chime in now, because I would greatly appreciate your opinions here. I'm gonna drag everybody who was here last time, and just so I can open up their character sheets and kind of look through some skills. Oh, I have the good thing I clicked on that. So I got to change the token vision, turn all that off. So yeah, so I just want to look at their skills real quick. Like, some of it doesn't make sense. It's like you're not going to be using, like, Arcana or Deception, blah blah blah. So, like, I feel like this is going to end up being primarily, like, hunting related checks, and people aren't good at it. Or I guess, like, you could maybe use stealth if you're trying to sneak up something like that. And I want to encourage, everybody has to participate, and I want people to do what they do best, or I want people to use different skills. Like I don't want people just all be smashing survival or all making range attacks. Maybe intimidation. You get in front of the pig and try to spook it, just run it somewhere else. I want it to be very open-ended. I don't want it to be like in the chase scene that I was describing earlier. It was like, obstacle 1 is this, obstacle 2 is this. You come to a rushing river. Boom. You have to climb up this hill. Boom. And then, how would you use your skills? And I like the idea of them using their skills creatively to solve a problem, but I want this one to be a little more open-ended. I feel like I want this to be, I'm not telling you, oh, the pig runs under a bush. What do you do now? I don't want them to like be solving that kind of problem. I want it to be just like, the first couple checks are like, oh, we found a pig, and then like, how do you capture a pig? And again, maybe you try to grab it, maybe you just shoot it, whatever it is. We can I can make it work. And it's not a combat. Like, so if Squirrel on the 5th check or whatever pulls out his crossbow and shoots it, I'm not going to rule that the thing just dies in the first shot, even if he makes his check. This is essentially a longer running thing. I want it to be more skill based. So even if Squirrel goes ahead and makes his shot, I don't want him to, I wouldn't, do you have him not roll damage? See that? Because if you, I don't know. Are you taking something away from somebody by doing that? I don't know. I'd like it to be like, okay, you hit him and he's still running. Like, but squirrels, Squirrel could kill a pig in one hit. I'm certain of it. Like 1d8, and he's got like, he's got his crossbow 8, which is a bigger damage dice, and he's got the hunted thing, whatever, the hunted shot, called shot. So like he could definitely like lay out a pig. But yeah, maybe I just say like, okay, you've hit it and it's bleeding, it's stuck, but it's still running away. And again, I want to encourage the silliness. I'd love to have Even jump up and try to like grab it in his jaws or something like that. And I need to find silly music. That's a note I'll do. I'm not going to do it live here on the stream, but I will kind of look a bit and find some silly music for this, because I want it to be a little bit of a, oh, the goblins are doing a thing again. And hopefully they buy in, because again, I'm pushing them to the pig thing. I think Kirkee's gonna say like, oh, we've ran out of goat tonight, could you please go get some pork? We have, there are pigs and boars throughout the woods, could you find one? And they go out and look for it, they find one. And the gimmick here is that the pig is obviously one of their comrades from the troop, and when they finish the pig, I don't think I want to do it during the fight. I want to do it either right at the end, like the last skill check before they capture or kill it, or maybe after, I guess, depending on a perception check at that moment. I want them to reveal that one of the pig's legs, or like the forearm in the back, one of the back legs, has the tattoos of one of the dwarves. Not Auric, which is their favorite, but one of the other dwarves in their band, and like this pig has like blue markings, the same sort of like dwarven runes are on this pig. So again, ideally I'd like them to kill it, but whatever, if they capture, that's fine too. But they're going to realize that this is one of the dwarves, and this is the beating them over the head thing, like all the stuff that happens at Kirkee's villa. It's hints and a little obvious, because I'm not being super sly about it, but it's kind of super obvious. And this is the beating you over the head. Like, if you didn't get it yet, if you didn't figure out that all these animals that are around here and all these like weird people you met, this is them. Like, this is happening. And maybe if they killed it, maybe they're sad about it. They can figure out what to do. If they didn't kill it, they could let it go or take it with them to kind of confront Kirkee about it. And long story short, they come back to Kirkee's villa and they have to talk to her about it. They have to figure out what they're going to do. So I want to impress upon them that Kirkee is out of their league. Again, she just thinks nothing of them. I'm hoping they catch the drift that she's very powerful, and fighting her would not be a great idea, especially with all of these animals hanging around, especially the lion that she basically is never without. Maybe they ignore that. Maybe they attack. Maybe they ask nicely. If they confront her about it and say like, "Are you doing this?" She's just gonna say yes. Like she's not gonna deny it. She's gonna just like, yeah, these are my friends. These are my playthings, and what are you gonna do about it? And they can ask nicely, and why would I do that? Like, why would I give these up? And she'll be stroking the lion when she says that, implying that this is a person too. And then maybe at that point they notice something about the lion that gives them the Opilius vibe. But yeah, so the gimmick is they're going to talk. I hope not kill her, and figure out what to do. And through talking, and maybe at the dinner beforehand, maybe I'll give some foreshadowing of this. She will basically explain like there are other nearby islands, and there are things you could do for her. Like if this pig means that much to you, if the dwarf that was this pig, or the pig that was this dwarf, whatever, means that much to you, maybe you can go do this for XYZ. And kind of use her as like a quest giver for the beginning of the Odyssey. I'd like her to be like, she's obviously like, she's not good. She's not sending you out to do good things. And she's something of a monster in that she's turning humans into animals, and dwarves and animals and whatnot. But she's like the best thing you've got, and she's got some knowledge, and she's willing to, if they care. Maybe they don't care that all their like, especially Opilius, like they were having fights with Opilius. They didn't really like where Opilius's head was at, so maybe they're fine with him not being a human anymore. So again, there's a lot of flexibility here. But at the end of the day, Kirkee is going to effectively say, like, well, if you want this dwarf turned back, go to the island of the terrible lizards and collect for me these talismans. And she'll show them, and like, they have the owlbear claw talisman in Pathfinder 2. I'm gonna make it like a raptor claw, essentially, just the same thing but skinned as a raptor, and say like, okay, if you go out to this jungle island where the terrible lizards are, you can collect all sorts of powers. Like these giant lizards are very powerful. They all have their own sources of power, and if you bring them to me, I can enchant them in special ways. And if you bring me enough of them, I will release some of your dwarves or whatever it is. And they can go there, collect raptor claws, and she'll give them one kind of as a trinket to show them how it works. Like, use this, and shatter it when your sword strikes true, and boom, like you get the crit effect or whatever it is. Like, so they'll see that she can make these cool, powerful talismans. Maybe she's a useful person to have in your pocket. But yeah, so she'll give a couple of quests. I think I have it in my notes, right? Kirkee's Island, right? Kirkee as an informant quest giver. So basically, one of the things I have noted here is that Kirkee and I guess other people, at least in the earlier parts of the realm, can't leave their islands. Like, they were basically cursed by Gosray or some other god. They were cursed to be here. And like, she can't herself leave the island. And a bunch of her neighbors also can't leave their islands. And if she's approached by this, like if they say like, well, why can't you go get it? Why haven't you gone to the dinosaur island? She'll be coy about it and kind of just try to bat the question away. But if push, she'll go ahead and say like, I'm not allowed. Like, I'm stuck here. I'm anchored to this land or something like that. But in passing, she will mention a couple other islands. I think maybe during dinner she'll drop this one. Like, there's a wandering island. Like every 28 days or whatever, every couple of weeks, there's an island that you'll see off the coast, and it's gone a couple of days later. And we talked about that a little bit before. I'm gonna have like a dragon turtle, like an extra large dragon turtle. Basically, she just circles around this area, eating food, and like it's on like a somewhat regular schedule. And it's gonna have a tower on the back. I have a map of it. I didn't really figure out what I'm gonna do with it yet, which is something I guess we could talk about a little bit later. Scenes, Odyssey, Wandering Island. So yeah, so this is like a giant dragon turtle with like a tower on its back. So this will be off in the distance, like far enough that it's hard to see what it is. But like, if you had a boat or if you're willing to get out there, you could figure it, you could go visit it. And she'll just be mentioning this in passing, like, oh, it comes by. And I haven't figured out what I want to have in here. If I want it to be like, if there's like a weapon in there, or if there's like a creature or some kind anchored to this thing. Basically, like, there's this island that comes by. I can't go to it, but it comes by every 3 weeks or whatever it is. And blah blah blah. So yeah, so Kirkee mentions that. She'll mention the terrible lizard island. Like, you sail a few days north of here, there's this large reptilian beast. Well, there, blah blah blah. You can get the trinkets, and also if you bring any of the lizard's eggs there, I'd be interested in studying them and adding them to my menagerie. Basically, she has all of these different types of animals. She doesn't have any dinosaurs, so she'd like some eggs if possible. Another one that I've been working on a bit is the old hag. So basically, you fly, you sail southwest for a couple days, a week. Leona Silt Stew is what I was calling her in my mind a little bit. Basically, she's got like a coven of witches on this island. And she's basically a green hag, and green hags hate beautiful things, and Kirkee's a beautiful thing. So the story kind of wrote itself in that there was some other outsider here, but one that was capable of moving between islands. Basically, some kind of like a winged creature. I don't know if it's like an angel or something like that. Basically, like I'm thinking in my mind like Hermes, but I haven't actually styled it into a creature yet. And basically, he would visit a bunch of the islands, and he would, you know, deliver things between people and deliver messages and whatnot. And Leona was always jealous of his affection for Kirkee. Like, you know, I think they call him Starini. Like, Starini never, you know, did anything cool with Leona, didn't like Leona, but was always talking about Kirkee and all the fun times they had with Kirkee. So Leona's super jealous about Kirkee's beauty and Starini's affections towards her. So essentially, he was kidnapped or killed. I didn't decide which I want to go. I probably want to go with kidnapped. He was kidnapped by Leona, and Kirkee wants to find out what happened. So these are the three quest hooks or directions that Kirkee's going to give them. And I might come up with a fourth, but I think these are the three I'm going to go with for now. And this all assumes they don't kill her. They just fight her and kill her. I don't know where I go with that. I'm hoping that Kirkee's strong enough that she will win the fight and not just kill them. Because in her mind, Kirkee might find some use with people that can leave the island. Like, again, if Starini's not here anymore, if people can't move between islands and collect things and bring messages, maybe she will find some use in having a bunch of goblins that can do her bidding. So yeah, haven't really decided exactly where I want to go with that, but the idea is that the idea for the campaign going forward after this is done, like I've railroaded them this far, is that once they're free in the Odyssey, they have to build a boat before they do anything else. And I want to impress upon Frankko and G-Pain and Mendax, anybody who has sailing lore, there's more than enough ship pieces and wood on the island to build a boat again. Like it won't be like a magnificent boat, but you can build like a small little sloop of patched together stuff for sure. And Kirkee is supportive of this idea and is not like, oh, you have to stay on the island. She's not being, again, no, not at all nefarious in Kirkee's vision. So like will encourage them to build a boat and to leave. And then once they're on the boat, again, I think I have over here, I have ships, goblin sloop, view scene. Is it going to work? I upgraded, so I wonder if the parallax, oh, it's just going to keep working. That's fantastic. So yeah, we have this goblin sloop. I have to delete this because there's weird rules about it. But yeah, so like we got this cool animated map of the goblin sloop. And again, it has like patched together sails and stuff like that. I want to impress upon them that this is the boat you made of garbage. And they're free to go. They're free to go wherever they want. And like Kirkee gives them the three ideas. Like, hey, there's an island over there that moves. There's a tower on it. If you go north, there's some terrible lizards. I'd like some of the stuff from up there. And if you go south, there's this bitch of a hag with a coven of witches that I'd like you to look into. I think she's kidnapped one of my lovers or friends, whatever it is. And then they can take those hooks or they could not take those hooks. And it's kind of just like, from there on, it's kind of like building this web of islands and experiences and things you hear, and kind of figuring things out from there. And that's kind of where the campaign is going. So we're almost there. We're almost to the full sandbox. I definitely had to railroad a lot. Like I said, session 10, I threw down the hammer essentially. I was like, listen, this is happening. This they're here. You're leaving. Gosray's pissed. It's happening, and I felt a little bad having to railroad so hard, but I did it, and I got to the point I wanted to be. Again, I had planned for the entire like piss off Gosray section. Like, you pissed off the sea god. I wanted that to be 2 or 3 sessions. It ended up being 9, almost 10. Because the 10th session was the on the Odyssey, so it took 9 full sessions to do the thing I thought would take in 3. And during session 9, I was like, this is it. This is over. We're doing it. We're getting on the boat. And I got them to the Odyssey. So that's where we're at. I'm going to take a quick bio break. And then when I come back, we can do a little more prep. I think I want to flesh out more of Kirkee's island. So we'll talk in a little bit. Be right back. I'm back. Got another beer, my bio break done, and like I said, I think we're going to look into prepping a little more of Kirkee's Island. So the current status that I just kind of went over is that they're at the watering hole. I assume they're going to hang out there and then head to Kirkee. I'm not going to throw a nighttime encounter at them. So basically, do I want to throw an encounter at them between here and Kirkee? Not really. Um, and so assuming they go there and they talk, they might want to wander around. So the idea is that they're going to be talking to Kirkee until they build a ship. And I don't want to do the same sort of problem. I don't want to have the same sort of issue that I was talking about earlier, in that I don't want to give them, oh yeah, you can build a ship and it's going to take you a week to build it or 2 weeks to build it, and then have them wandering around for that week with nothing planned to do. So basically, I need to have some more stuff on Kirkee's Island that they can do. It's essentially a jungle-like forest, or depending, yeah, I describe it as a jungle-like forest. So you kind of need to figure out what else can we put here that they can kind of get into. And that's pretty much it. We got to figure it out. So I have this was the original idea I had for the watering hole. You can see I had the PCs and Kirkee here. I was thinking this would be a good, decent watering hole, but I found the better looking map that I went with. And the reason I did that, I changed it, was because this map actually has a like a dynamic effect that I didn't actually apply here, but let me see if I can find it. Boundary data, maps. This is I believe it's a Tom Cardos map. It's not labeled. Into the Wilds, Waterfall. Yeah, so if I open this up, this is like, I'm just in Windows File View or whatever. So like there is this cave, right? So like basically I can edit this map essentially. Like I could have like a tile here that I hide or drag back on, where the waterfall has a secret thing underneath it. So I was originally just going to use this as the watering hole without using the secret tunnel because I didn't really care about it. But that's pretty much like I don't know. I ended up not using it. So this is kind of just still here as the waterfall map. This used to be the watering hole map. So I was thinking, is there any interesting reason for me to have this? Like, could they be wandering around and they find this, and then is there something interesting they could find in here? And I think maybe they could find a bunch of their allies' loot. Maybe this is where Kirkee hides all the stuff. You know, why wouldn't she just throw it all into the sea or something like that? I don't know. That's a great question. But I think this might be fun. That might be a fun thing to do. So so yeah, I think I'll do that. I'm just gonna take a note to do that because I'd have to open up photo editor and edit that out because I don't want to have this whole map as a tile. I mean, I could. It's kind of silly to have the whole map as the tile. I want to just, yeah, because it's a long story, but I wouldn't want to have the whole map as a tile because I also, there's different versions, and like this is the version I'm in, right? This one with all the rocks in it. And I don't think they have a version of the base thing with the that might be it. Yeah, that might be it. So waterfall cave, no grid. So like if I made that a tile, again, it feels kind of silly. If you go ahead and just like place tile and you make it the same size as the background, right? I go ahead to where I was going. Maps, Tom Cartos, Into the Wilds, Waterfall, and I think it was called, I want the one with the, yeah, is it this one? I don't know the difference between this one. No grid. I think that's what I want. And is that on top? Is that perfectly on top? I don't think it is. They added all these cool new features, and I don't know what they all do. It's not perfectly on top. It's close though. Like it's close enough that they really wouldn't notice a difference when I hit that button. It's like it's invisible, and you're seeing the thing behind it. So yeah, so I could do that. I need to, like, they added all these cool new features that I do not know how to use yet. I really need to play around with the new VTT version because you can actually have like roofs and stuff like that. Maybe this is the right time to do that. Maybe this is like, oh, I don't, like, again, it said underfoot tile. I don't know what that means. Maybe I can make it that when you actually move into this section, you actually see under the thing. So I definitely have to do some research there and figure it out. And if you're a Foundry guy or girl and you know something about that, let me know. I'd love to figure it out. I'm sure there's gonna be some video tutorials coming out now, but I think this just released, I think like a week ago, the new version of Foundry. So I haven't played around with it yet. I just updated just yesterday before this video because I still was running another campaign and I wanted to make sure that my VTT wasn't broken from the upgrade. I was running my Hell's Vengeance Pathfinder 1 campaign on Tuesday, and I pushed off the update to this weekend. So yeah, anyway, I like the idea of them, if they wander around, if they just want to spend some time wandering, they can stumble upon this waterfall, make some perception checks, maybe they notice, or maybe they're just naturally curious and want to go over here. I did note that there were no like running rivers, so it's kind of counterintuitive to what this is. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, how do you get around that? It's not really a river, but there's water rushing down it. It implies that water is moving. Kind of goes back on my word that there aren't running rivers. Or maybe you just say that it's weird. It's weird that this is a running river. What if they follow it to the source? And then, like, I don't know. Again, it kind of goes against what I was saying, that there isn't a lot of elevation here. So I'm kind of reluctant to include it now. But I like the idea that they can find it. So maybe we just go with it and hope they forget I said that. Another thing that I made a note of is that I added this panther here. Yeah, I added this panther up here, right? And I want to have the panther visible at some point. So I think when they're walking to Kirkee's villa, assuming they go, that they'll see this panther up in a tree, kind of like lazily, lackadaisically watching them. Not like, you know, it's not acting like a panther. It's not acting aggressively. It's not trying to hide. It's just like lazily in the trees. Kind of another indication that this is a preternatural panther. It's not just a regular panther acting like panther would act. It's weird to squirrel and the nature knowers. And then maybe they bump into this a couple of times. And I kind of wrote up that basically this is one of Kirkee's old favored pals. Basically, this panther was one of her most recent favored either companions or someone she liked talking to or something like that, that now Opilius has kind of taken over that role. Someone new and interesting to her that she talks to and hangs out with all the time. So the lion, Opilius, is now the new hotness, and the panther is the old busted. So maybe they see this panther, you know, over and over again. Maybe it follows them around. Maybe it's curious about them. And maybe they end up fighting it. That's up to them. But basically, I want them to notice that this panther is weird. And it's not one of their old shipmates. It's someone else from the island. That this panther is weird and following him and not acting like a panther. But yeah, so that might happen. I might just throw that around as they're wandering around. But this is one thing they could do. I don't know what other fights I'd want to have, because I mean, like, how many fights with animals do you really want to throw at them? Like, you could, like, I threw a stag in there, and they rightfully, it was in the Fallen Tree one. The stag is what kind of stirred up the cicadas. Stag is not a joke. Creature 3, it's the same as the flytrap, basically, that they just fought. But it's got a mountain of hit points. 50 is a lot. And yeah, it's got a bunch of cool abilities too. So I mean, it's irksome. I don't want to throw a stag at them. And then like you're just looking through the animal list and saying like, do I really feel like I want to throw this at them or that at them? I don't know. I like the idea of after the pig thing, they can find Oric. Oric will be like a boar. So instead of just being a pig, he'll be like, you know, an elite boar or whatever, a dire boar, whatever it is. Like he's like, you know, a really tough boar. We can go from there. But yeah, that's not really a scene. That's not really a fight. It's not really something else to do. So like for the next session, assuming they go and they talk to Kirkee and then they go out and they do the pig chase at some point, the pig hunt. What else can they do during that session? Or if they just want to wander around, what can they do? I could throw more Fae at them. Basically, those annoying Fae. I don't want to throw more Pugwumpies at them, because once you fight Pugwumpies once, you don't really want to do it again. But yeah, I don't know. That's I'm kind of at a loss. I need more meat. I have like these ideas for the campaign and where things are going at the high level, but I don't have a lot of meat, and I feel like I need to sit down and just kind of write some more stuff. Yeah. I'm sitting here now thinking if I should sit down and try to figure out, you know, go through maps, figure out what I want to do, and then go from there, or if I just want to take a break and write some more stuff before I start doing that. Because like I could go through the maps, you know, I'm going through over here. I got like Gabriel Picard. You pull up like any of the woods or the forest maps, and you can find some stuff. And you could just throw down a map, and then throw down an animal on it. I don't want to have traps. Like, again, Kirkee's not, like, this is not a nefarious island. She's not a huntress. She's not doing, like, she's obviously doing a bad thing. She's obviously doing people and animals, but she's relying on her courtesy and her food and her magic to kind of, you know, charm people and trick them into doing this and become animals. She's not like a horrible murderer. So there's no, I don't want any traps on the island. I don't really like, I don't want any other intelligent people on the island. So maybe it's Fae again. Maybe if they wander out to the woods, they bump into Fae. And then that's just like, okay, fine. You went out, you went into the woods, and now you have to fight Fae. And I mean, like, I don't have maps in mind. Crossroads? I don't really. Again, I don't want roads. I don't want signs of civilization here. Like, this is just Kirkee has his one villa, which is weird. It stands out. It's this big Greek villa. It's weird. A forested cave entrance. Once you give him a cave entrance, you got to give him the whole cave. That's rough. I don't want rivers. I don't want bridges. Chaotic woodlands. This could be fun. It could be fun if they're just wandering through and they bump into some Fae on that map. I like that. We can go with chaotic woodlands. I'll go with that. I'll make a new scene. Let's call it Rolling Hills. Rolling Hills. And background image. Oops. Go up. Go up. Go up. Go to Gabriel Picard. Go to, I think I was in Woods. And I'll search for, it was chaotic, right? That's what it said. Yep, that one. Boom. Boom. I'll turn off those. I only use those settings when I'm actually having like a map you have to explore. Like if there's walls and stuff involved. So, Rolling Hills, view scene, toggle navigation, so it's easy to get to. All right. Oh, was it already there? Toggle navigation. Is it on by default? Yeah, I guess it is. I don't like that the start screen isn't always first. Oh, okay, I can just do that. Okay. That works. All right. So now we go here, and I'm going to drop a PC on it, so we'll use even. Yeah, that's way too small. What do you want to do? Like kind of double it, I guess. So go ahead, configure, grid size 200. Maybe it's too much, but let's see. That feels like too much. Yep. Configure, go to 150 maybe? That's kind of in the middle of a tile. That feels better though. Like if there's still like 5 feet wide paths. So there's a lot of like chokes. I kind of like that. I think that's what we're gonna do. So like the scale of things kind of looks silly sometimes. Like this tree is only, I guess that's like a 10-foot wide tree. Like I feel like it should be a bit bigger, but I don't like super huge maps. Like once you get to like a huge battle map, it's just like there's too much going on. This is already like there's a lot of running you can do on this map, so this is fine, even though the scale's a little weird. So basically, I could have them walking through the woods and they're jumped by more Fae, and like basically establish that there are more Fae here. And I kind of want to beat that into their heads a little bit too, because I haven't really made the decision that this is the first world that was mentioned over and over again by the elves. Like, the elves originally thought that the goblins that were attacking them were Fae, and they say, why were you children of the first world? Why did you come here? Blah, blah, blah. And the first thing they bumped into here are Fae, and Kirkee is a Fae if they ever figure that out. So maybe they see something here, maybe referencing the moving between the spaces. Maybe they're in the woods, and not only are they jumped by Fae, but they watch as a Fae like literally jumps through like a tear in reality or a portal or something like that. That could be cool to kind of establish that portals exist, and these Fae can be doing things like that. But then you got to figure out what Fae do you want to use. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Aeon PRD. I wonder if the bestiary has a filter by type. I don't know that it does. Let's bring that up while I'm doing the other thing in parallel. And hopefully, it's not going to get slow, right? It's going to be nice to me. While that's working, I brought this up. Traits? Fae? Is that a trait? Cool. All right. That's cool. Sort by level. All right. So now I can go to the bottom. Just kind of scroll down and see like what's a very powerful Fae. A satyr would be cool. Um, that seems like a more interesting than I want, honestly. I want like a problem. I don't want a conversation, I guess is where I'm going with that. A pixie? Hmm. That could be fun. A pixie playing tricks on them could be fun. Or I could just go with Gremlins again. I'm looking at what the Gremlins options are. So you see over here, like the what's a Nuglub look like? I think they're hideous, right? Yeah, like I don't really want to have a Nuglub attack them. It's just a weird looking thing. I don't know. Like, I don't want this island full of evil things. Um the Pugwumpies were fun. Again, that was mostly just to do that, to have that fun. What's a Fouth? Is that like a deer thing? No. The fuck? Shipwreckers and these are fun. Yeah, we don't need to do this now, but this is definitely a fun thing to have in the deck. Maybe one of these sneaks onto their ship and they have to deal with it on the boat. That's a fun little note. Let me go ahead and make a note of that in my other thing. Enemy ideas. Mouth. Have a handful sneak onto their ship. Have a ship-based encounter. I like the idea, again, when the Goblins get their own boat, the boats basically become home base. Like, they're not going to always come back to Kirkee's Island after every encounter or whatever, every journey. They're going to be on their boat. Like, they're going to be living on their boat between sessions. So I like the idea of having a bunch of ship-based encounters in the can. So it's not so much that I rely on them going to islands and doing things. They can also have fights on the boat, fights at sea, things like that. So the idea that these Fuath? I don't know. Futh? The idea that these things are on the boat is a useful little thing there. So I don't want to throw them at them. I like the idea. They look hilarious. I love it. Absolutely love these Gremlins. The Paizo art for Gremlins is great. What's a Grimple? They resent the trappings of civilizations. Alright, little, like a flying squirrel bat thing. Yeah, so I don't know. I like the idea of a pixie. I think I'm leaning towards pixie. I'm leaning towards a pixie. I'm gonna just drag that into the actors thing now to get that going. But let's see if I go over here and I go to Odyssey, Kirkee's Islands. I'm gonna go ahead and put a pixie. Planar Nixie. I want a pixie. All right, and get some token art for that. My art tokens. Devon Knight probably has a pixie. All right, cool. Does the prototype token inherit that? It did. Cool. All right, cool. So now I have a pixie, and it was supposed to inherit it. You told me you were going to. Why did you lie to me? You prototype token, you lied to me. Upside token. You should now work. Okay, good. Pixie 2, whatever. Loading. Oh, don't get slow on me, baby. Alright. Alright, cool. So there's a pixie here. Aren't they smaller than this, though? The size, I guess, isn't scaling. So let me see. Let me pull up a pixie here. They are small. So whenever I have a small creature, I usually make them like 0.8-ish. I'm surprised. I thought a pixie would be even smaller than that. That's cool art. I'll probably just save that art. Go ahead, save that right in that folder, make a handout immediately, because it was great. Yeah, go ahead and make a new one. And image. I guess I should be using the journal type of whatever, and journal entries too. Like you can have like text and descriptive things about them, but I kind of just use them as art. I've just been basically using them as not that one. Portraits, Kirkee. Pixie. There you go. I've just been using, like, I show a handout and I kind of scale it down like this, and I say, like, while the fight's happening, I'll move it over here out of the way so you can see, like, a picture of what you're fighting or something like that. But, you know, you can have lots of cool stuff. I've seen people create entire, like, not wikis, but whatever you want to call it. Like, you can click through things like, oh, this is from the realm of blah, and you click in the thing and it brings you to another page, or they write stuff like that. And you can put a lot of your world into the VTT if you care to do that. I don't. I mean, I like the idea, but I don't want to do all that effort. And then there's always the risk of, like, if your world gets corrupted, bad things happen. I don't know. It's risky. I wouldn't. I would not play that game. But yeah. So I don't know. I like the idea of the party encountering a pixie and the pixie playing tricks on them. I don't really know what tricks pixies have. Okay, pixie dust. One of its arrows. The pixie hits a creature with the arrow. The arrow inflicts the following special effects. Okay, so you don't deal damage. It can charm you. It can make you lose the last 5 minutes of your memory. You fall asleep. You take mental damage. Huh. But you don't, unless you hit with the memory loss arrow, you don't forget that you've been shot. Right? Like, there's nothing stopping this. Let me read on this. Like, if it shoots you, you're still shot. Yeah, so you got to use an action to sprinkle, and then you use another action to shoot, and you can have that cool ability. Okay, so I can also basically make up anything I want. If she hits you with an arrow, you can do anything you want. So I like the idea of this pixie just causing problems with them, just being annoying. Like, I'm trying to think of what's the best way to do that. I can shoot someone, make them fall asleep, and then, like, they don't notice, you know, they got hit by an arrow. Because this thing, I guess, would be really stealthy and trying to do things. If Squirrel, usually he scouts ahead, so maybe they come up and they find Squirrel asleep. they walk, and they're walking behind the path that Squirrel leads, and they just find Squirrel asleep. And then I don't know what else the pixie would do. And then again, so they're not nefarious, because my brain went to traps. Like, so basically, oh, you could set a trap. You could put Squirrel to sleep, and the others come up and they set off some kind of a trap. Maybe the pixie plays a joke. That could be fun if it was like a trap that was designed not to hurt, but to mock, or is like a playful kind of trap. Again, I don't know. But then we come back to the fact, so what is the point of this? Back to, again, Nate's question, as it were, when I was talking about the encounter, the scene that I gave that didn't go anywhere, the week and a half. Pixie encounter. Mischievous. Non-malicious. Can't spell. So what's the point of this encounter? And the real point of this encounter in my mind right now is essentially to kill time. Like, if they go wandering in the forest, I want them to have stuff happen out there. Puts one to sleep. Makes another forget 5 minutes. Basically, I want to just go through and use the abilities it has. And be startled. Charm? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I want to charm, something like that. And I guess I would just look through, like, other low-level spells. Look through other low-level spells. And figure out what else I could kind of just hand-wave into. Like, oh, the pixie did it. And the pixie duck's ability was, like, DC 21 is not a joke. So this could be fun. Like, if Squirrel's asleep, and if someone else, like, all of a sudden they're freaked out that they can't remember what happened. Like, how did I get here? Weren't we just over there? That could be fun. And again, just kind of playing around. And then, I guess while they're doing this, while the pixie's doing this, she's taking shots with an arrow. So people, I guess, could notice it. Obviously, they can make perception checks. I guess at the end of the day, you're going to notice an arrow. But yeah. And I don't think there's a way to do this. I was in my head now, because if I use the it says Shart Sword. Whoever imported the MP3, it says Shart Sword. That's not what it says in the no, it's a short sword, but they spelled Shart Sword. That's pretty hilarious. All right. So yeah, I mean, I love the Pathfinder guys. The guys that put all the work into the Foundry Pathfinder at 1 and 2 modules. They're really good. So I'm not gonna make fun of anybody, but that's just hilarious. I like Shard Sword. That's I love it. All right. And also, a lot of the NPCs in the bestiary, if you're using them, they come in with like this generic loot, which is basically like they just copy the text from whatever import tool they used, and you have if you want them to be like lootable items, you have to actually drag them in, like that, and then you can delete the old ones. So yeah, so basically I want the pixie to play tricks on them, and that's haha, that's fun. But then what does the pixie want? Like again, like so, why why does this matter? What does the pixie want? And you could just be very shallow. You could just say like this pixie is just bored and is messing with people that they found. And as I say that, I think I'm going to lean into it. So yeah, bored, looking for fun to be had. Thought this would be fun. I could play kind of like airheaded, and immediately bored with the goblins when they're talking. She wants to do something. Encourage the goblins to do something. Wants to see what they're good at. What tricks can you do? Kind of just allow them to show off their skills a little bit. So yeah, I'm again, this is just off the top of my head right now, so it's not masterwork stuff, but we're leaning into it now, and we're getting into kind of an idea. Like if they wander out into the forest and they're looking for stuff to do, this is stuff to do. A pixie's going to play a little joke on them, maybe depending on her roles, maybe puts Squirrel to sleep, maybe plays a little bit, and eventually they figure out that something's shooting at them and finds it. Hopefully they don't like it. I don't know. Maybe they attack back. But whatever it is, hopefully the fight doesn't end in a murder of a pixie. Might, you never know. And again, she's gonna be like, "I'm bored. No, I don't want to talk. No." And you just kind of role play that up, and like, what can you do? Show me something. Show me something. And then allow the PCs to, use their abilities, use their skills, their feats, their spells to kind of show the pixie what they can do. And maybe you've got the acrobatic characters doing jumps and stuff like that. Maybe they do some performances. Maybe G-Pain sings a song, and like this is interesting to the pixie. But again, then that's fun. That's a good way of just having people make some skill checks and have a good time. Basically, if they're a fun little encounter, they can have some social thing, but not without the pressure of Kirkee being around and stuff like that. But then where is it? Then the questions come up. Where does this Fae come from? Why is it here? And I like the idea that this pixie can kind of just leave, like she leaves through a portal, like she moves between the spaces, like I said before, and she can't take them with her. Like she'll explain that like, oh, that's not something I can do. Yeah, we don't have that ability. But just the idea that there are Fae moving between the spaces, and this one gets bored and just looks for things to do. She moves between the spaces. Cannot take them with her. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, I'm not sure how much I really need to flesh this out. I can, again, a lot of it's just winging it, because you have no idea where the conversation's going to go. I think I went through a bunch when we were doing the end of the elf occupation, when we were talking to the mayor, and we were talking to Folin, and we were talking to a bunch of other key elf NPCs. I basically just like to establish, like, what's the general personality trait of the NPC, and in this case, it's kind of like a bored, like, I don't know the right adjective, but like, I keep saying like airheaded or things like that, but that's not really right. It's like easily bored, like needs action driven, easily bored, wants to have stuff going on now. I like the idea of that being the primary driving force for her. So like, basically what's the basic personality idea? What do they want out of the situation? And like it was like for the mayor wanted to protect her people. Fulwin wanted to be done with this. He was defeated and he felt dejected. So what it like basically the pixie's just here to have a good time. The pixie's just here to play jokes, find something cool, watch something cool, and then leave. So I don't really think I need to build it out too much. I like maybe she's heard or seen the fisherman. Describes him differently though. Describes him differently. So he appeared as an elf to the party in that situation. And I like the idea of basically this avatar of Gazre, or this fisherman, this weird otherworldly creature they came in contact with. I want him to appear several times in the Odyssey as different things. Like I thought maybe he could be like a giant or an ogre or cyclops at some point, and he has like the same sort of hair or some other distinctive thing that gives him away. So I like the idea of that, like, oh, if they think for some reason to ask about the fisherman, like she's not going to volunteer this obviously, but I like the idea that she's seen him but describes him differently. He's not tall and elf-like. She knows him as I don't want to go with like a dwarf. I want most of the creatures in the Odyssey section of the world to be non-traditional, like playable races. I don't want them to be like dwarves and humans and things like that. I want it to be outsiders and things like that. So like I want the entire world to be populated by like weird things that are not normal. I want to say dwarf-like, like stouty and bearded, but I don't want it to be a dwarf. So stout and bearded. So yeah, yeah. So I figure I'll just wing most of this. I'm not gonna go all balls to the wall here, especially because again they might not wander around, they might not come to this pixie, they might not question this pixie after that. So but I just like the idea that if they come here and they bring up the green-haired guy again, this pixie will have heard him and it's like, oh no, he's not how you describe him, but I do know somebody with very long green hair. It's his beard, and she'll describe that. And the similarity where it's like, oh, it's a big white beard, but when it hits the sun, right, blah blah blah. And if she sees the hair, Puck has this hair. Puck is like carrying around this hair that the fisherman gave him. He will be able to kind of say, oh yeah, of course, that's the thing, of course. So yeah, I think I'm gonna go with that pixie. I like that idea. I'm not sure if this map makes sense for the pixie, but I like the idea of there being a map and there being a pixie on it. So I might add a different map later on and put the pixie there, because this looks like a good map. This is like a tactical map. Like if they're moving through, and we could say like, oh, you're coming down and you're taking the high road from here or whatever. We could have the party up here and then have something jump them. Like it looks like, it makes sense to have archers and stuff like that. But again, I don't want this to be like a horrible island. I don't want there to be like, it's not like, orc archers or anything like that. So is it worth putting like gremlins or something here to try to attack them, and why? Or maybe they stumble upon a pack of gremlins hunting an animal, and they can just fight them if they want. They could save the animal. That's not a bad idea. All right. Boom. Gremlin hunters. The PCs stumble upon a gang of gremlins. All right, now we're with gas. Springing and attack on an animal. And maybe this could be the stag we talked about. Maybe these gremlins could be attacking a stag and getting wrecked by a stag. Like maybe you have a bunch of like low-level gremlins, because I think we were looking at it, right? You look at the gremlins here. You could have a bunch of what does Vexkit look like? It's like the bug one, right? Yeah, I don't want that one. Maybe I do. I don't like the Nuglubs. That looks too weird to me. It's too... Could have Grimples. We already have Pixie. Is it a Mitfit? Mitflit. Yeah, you're fun looking. I like it. You're kind of goblin-y. This is like a mite. They changed what mites are. Oh, also known as mites. There you go. Yeah, so maybe... Yeah, maybe that could be fun. So if you had like a Mitflit, and I guess I had the Jinkin be the leader last time. Maybe we have another one of those. So yeah, I like the idea of there being a mitflit and like a jinkin, and maybe a couple of mitflits, and basically they're attacking something. I like where we're going with this. We're out here. So yeah, so maybe I do that on this map, like I said, because I like the idea of the party having terrain. So I'm gonna go to bestiary. I'm gonna go over here. Mitflit. Mitflit sneak. What's that? Sure. Let me compare these two. Fey Gremlin. Yep. So it's 2 levels higher. Stat line looks mostly the same. A little bit. It's a little better. Weaknesses are the same. Saves are a good deal better. Bunch more hit points. And attack is slightly better. Does this not have a damage on it? Wonder if it actually... Yeah, this looks like it doesn't have damage defined on it. Undefined, it says, yeah. So I don't know what this is from. This might be from a book or something. And maybe it doesn't work. So I think I'm going to just take the regular mitflit. Alright, and I'm going to come over here and go drag my mitflit on. And mitflit. So they did look like goblins. Come on. Slowing down. I've noticed after I run it for like an hour, so it gets slow. I don't know if there's something I'm doing or if it's just over time. But it's been, again, since the update, it's been a little, oh, the whole thing? Wait, I'll give you a moment. Again, I'm not sure if it's like I'm trying to load the images and it's not happy about it, but it didn't happen before. Ugh. So while that's figuring itself out, I think that's enough. I think that's enough in terms of like actual combat-y type of encounters. So if they wander around the woods, there you go. Okay, we're back. I want to get up. I want to get out of I want to get out of this directory. Maybe I should have closed the compendium. Oh yeah. All right. Foundry's not going to play nice. I might just stop for the night. I was going to stop a little early tonight anyway, but yeah, so like I was saying before, we have these 2 encounters. If they go wandering through the woods, if they need something to do during the days while they're hanging out with Kirkee, then we have this one thing they can stumble upon, and basically I'm going to throw a bunch of Fays at it. Bunch of Fey. I'm going to close this and hope that was what was making it slow. Go to the root. All right, there you go. There'll be a bunch of Fey. Do you have any, if I type in, like, Gremlin or Goblin? You got some Goblins. I can use you. Let's see. What's big? Mitflit, the little mites. I think Devin actually has a mite, so I could use that. I know that John Luce doesn't have one, but Devin actually has a mite. Look like the big, ugly blue ones. Mite. Yep, there you go. Mitflits. Okay. So yeah, I'm gonna do that. And did it? Yeah, the token's supposed to just update when you update the portrait the first time. And I think it thinks it does, but it's not doing it. It used to. Anyway, yeah, see, it has the URL there. I don't know why it doesn't work. Anyway, so, and mitflits are really small, right? Mitflits are regular small. Okay. Jinkins are tiny. That's weird that mitflits are bigger. All right. So yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and set you down to 0.8 or whatever, or maybe 0.7. Yeah, 0.8. We'll go with it. Okay. Pop. And I'm gonna copy a bunch of you. I don't like that. We can say 4. We'll go with 4. And I'll turn 5 into mitflit 1. Right? Okay. And of course I have to name the token. The token and the sheet have different names, which is silly sometimes. If you link the actor data to it, it's actually much better. Like it plays much nicer. But then you can't do copies of the NPC like this because they're all share the same sheet. So that's not really what I was going for there. Okay, so basically, I wish there was a little more open space now that I'm looking at it. Maybe they jump it here. Like, they were set up for an ambush, and the animal was walking through here, and they're doing it. So I'm gonna put the stag there. I think the stag is way too powerful for them. Like, I'm not sure I even, like, can a midfoot hit? With an 8, a +8 on a 18-8. Yeah, so they can hit 50-50. And not do a whole lot of damage. But they could, yeah. So maybe they could attack a stag. But I might look through and pick a different animal. At the moment, it doesn't much matter. I have a stag handy, so maybe they're going to jump the stag and try to kill it for food. And like I said before, I think I might throw Jinkin into it. I like the idea of Jinkins being like the leader class. And of course, there's no art for the Jinkin. Yeah, go to the top. I don't know what art I used for it before. I'm pretty sure it was just a goblin, though. I chose one of the goblins. Oh, I picked Tom Kartos. I meant to do Devon Knight, but this is interesting now. I didn't notice that he's like fancy goblins. But now, if I need goblins in suits, I have them. It's good to know. Oh man, that was unexpected. All right. So yeah. So basically, I just need like a goblin with a knife. I'll go with you for now until I find something better. I don't know what I used before. Like, again, there was one on the beach. I should just look and see. Yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to go back. I'm going to update it just now in case I want to save it. But then I'm going to go back to the washed up. Oh, I used this one because he had a lightning bottle. See, I can't really use that one. That's not really what I'm doing then. Yeah. And this one, since he's actually tiny, like, it did set the Widgrith to 0.5. Like, he's really tiny. That's very interesting. It's like these mitflits are huge comparatively. All right. Yeah, so basically, I think the Jenkin, maybe I'll make him an elite Jenkin again, because I like the idea. I like that. So yeah, he'll be an elite Jenkin. And he's going to be over here, kind of ordering them around. And the mitflits, they have bows? No, they have darts. So maybe some of them will be throwing darts at this thing. That's a good roll for him. So dart damage, very little, yeah. And some of them will actually be jumping on it. The Jinkin will be here. It doesn't have a range weapon. Kind of ordering them around, and then eventually jumping into flank and start doing sneak attack damage. So the Jinkins have this other cool ability called Tinker, where basically they work together for an hour to kind of curse an item at a range of 60 feet. It says it's unobtrusive and can be performed while hiding. So I like the idea of like a pack of Jinkins finding them if they're camping out in the woods and like cursing one of the items. Just total asshole GM move. So I like the idea. Just having that in my pocket. I haven't really come up with what I want to do with it yet. But I like the idea, you know, the party wakes up to having a cursed item that they didn't expect. So this, I think this is done. Like, this stag is gonna wreck them. Like 16 damage kills these things. Like, so yeah, so they're gonna stumble on to these mitflits attacking this, and just everything, they're just gonna get wrecked. I mean, even if you give them a surprise round, even if the stag didn't see them coming, I think again it's a 50-50 shot for the mitflits to hit. And even if they hit, they're not doing a whole lot of damage. And then eventually the stag's gonna go. But the stag only gets so many attacks. What cool abilities does it have? Attack back, thundering charge, and trample. Kickback. The moose bucks and kicks with both hinds, who's making a strike with a -2 circumvention. If it hits, it deals an extra 1d8. Okay. This counts as 2 attacks. Alright, so basically, if you want to use the hoof attack, you can get an extra d8. Thundering charge. Strides twice and makes an antler strike. A medium or smaller creature or be stunned 1. That's fun. Trample. It strides double speed and can move through the spaces of creatures of listed size. Medium. So they can just run away if you wanted to. But I think it'd be funny to just have them come upon just like right at the beginning. Like they are walking and they hear one of the mitflits shriek as it jumps on and tries to stab this big stag. And maybe I'll add some more. Like, I don't know how many mitflits I need. But basically, I figured the stag's gonna murder some, and then I'd like to leave some for the party. And I could add a Pugwumpy if I wanted to be a giant asshole about it. Maybe I will. I can add like one Pugwumpy, and they know they're Pugwumpies now. Yeah, so I'll add like one Pugwumpy with the unlock aura. So basically, like they won't see it at the beginning, but maybe they see it at the end. And yeah, I think again, this is just again, if they're wandering through the forest and I need filler, this is now filler. They can come upon this group of gremlins fighting a stag, and they can deal with it. All right, and that's pretty much what I've got. So I think that's good. I'm trying to think if there's any other like non-combat, non-map based things they could find. Like if they're just wandering around the woods, you could just describe the woods. You could kill time with just saying like, "Oh, you found an interesting looking tree. You found I can't say river because I said there were rivers, but you know, you're walking around, you find this, you find that." And it doesn't have to be all fights and encounters and pixies and stuff like that. I do keep coming back in my head to the waterfall. I think I should again. I think I should just kind of wipe away the fact that I said there's no rivers. And if Squirrel asks about it, which he will, because Will is a very perceptive person, the person playing Squirrel, I think he's gonna remember and burn me on that. But we can just hand wave that there's some other source of water that's not elevation or whatever it is. And I like the idea of them being able to notice that there is a secret cache of stuff in there, and they could find a bunch of their old friends' loot and gear and things like that. I like that a lot, and I like that the Panther could follow them here. That could be a thing, and then Kirkee could know through the Panther that they did blah, blah, blah. So I like this. I like this too. Now I've got 3 scenes that could potentially happen on the island, if they want. I need to impress upon them somehow. I don't want to be heavy-handed, but I feel like I might have to be. That they can build a boat. I don't know if I should just maybe just talk to Frankko and G Payne, the players behind them, before the session and mention it, or if they're wandering around and they see the ruins of the shipwrecks, maybe they think about it again, and I give them a knowledge check. I just like, oh, make a sailing lore check, and then tell them, oh, you believe you could build a boat. You believe there's enough wreckage here and wood on the island to build a passable floating boat. I don't know. Let me know what you think. If you have any opinions on that before the next session, I'd like to hear them. Does anybody talk to their players with stuff like that beforehand to kind of prep them? I've never really done that. I like to kind of do things in the scene as they're happening. But if you wanted to plant an idea in a player's head beforehand, does anybody do that? I feel like it's wrong to even ask that question. But yeah, so I don't know. I'm not sure where I'm going with that, but again, I think that's kind of where I'm going to go with, and I think that's all I'm going to need for this week's session. We play on we play next Saturday. I think I'm probably going to skip the prep session on Tuesday this week because my friends want to play a board game using Tabletop Simulator, so I'll probably do that instead of doing another prep session. I'm pretty a little ahead. No, I wouldn't say. I was gonna say pretty far ahead. I would not go with pretty far. I'm a little ahead. Like I said, I was beefing up this island a bit. The dinosaur island we did. I had a whole video specifically on the dinosaur island where we have a bunch of encounters there, and I've been working on linking them with some texts and ideas. But the gimmick there is basically that Kirkee's gonna send them there on like a trinket hunt. Like, go kill some raptors and take their claws. Go kill this animal and take this, and go get some eggs if you can. And there's not going to be any civilization there. There's not going to be any people there. Not gonna be any ruins or anything. It's really just wander around this sweaty jungle, kill a bunch of lizards, and bring back some of their stuff, and I'll make it magic for you. And Kirkee, like, she'll keep a bunch of them, and she'll give them trinkets too. Like if they bring home a bunch of raptor claws, she'll give them 1 or 2 and keep the rest. So yeah, so that's kind of the gimmick there. So yeah, so I have like the dinosaur island. I figure I can just kind of hand wave. I have not started prepping this dream island. So basically, all I have is this Hags cave map that I think I found on Reddit. I'm subscribed to like /r battle maps and /r D&D maps, and you know, as I'm just scrolling through Reddit, every once in a while a really cool map pops up. I'm like, yep, yes, that one, yes, and then you kind of just work backwards from that. Did I do the walls in this one yet? I did not. So yeah, basically, I want to do the walls and have it be like an actual walled map where they come in, they work their way through. and there's going to be a hag in here, and she's going to have a coven of witches. So I want on the island, I want them to encounter a bunch of other witches. One note that I do have is Puck is a barber who is like an oracle, who is supernaturally obsessed with hair, as I've kind of mentioned before. I want to have a white-haired witch, or I guess I gotta get the Pathfinder 2 equivalent of it. I want to have a witch that has like animated prehensile hair that she can grab people with and stuff like that. I want him to find this person and probably want to talk to her, but she's not interested in talking to goblins, and that he has to fight and come to terms with that, or convince her to stop. And she'll be one of the witches in service to this hag who hates Kirkee and has kidnapped her lover slash messenger slash friend, whatever you want to call it. So I do have to kind of work on this. I gotta hash this out a little bit more, because if they decide to go to the I call it Dream Island, because in my original kind of write up of the island, I was thinking the hag would have like nightmare magic. So when they were on the island and moving towards her, they'd be racked with nightmares, and they'd have statistical penalties based on whoever got the nightmare that night. And then I thought they'd be cool to have some weird like dream power, where like they wake up disembodied, they see their sleeping bodies, and they can kind of move around ethereally on the island that night, so they can kind of get a sneak peek of what they're going to do. But I haven't really codified any of that. It's kind of an idea we came up with when I was talking to Bijo about different island ideas a while back. I think I'll go with that, but I'm not banging it out now. It's late, and I'm gonna call it early tonight. But yeah, thanks for watching, anybody out there. Yeah, if you're on YouTube or watching this later, thanks for checking me out. Let me know if there's anything you want me to do specifically, or anything you're interested in. If you want specific things with Foundry, specific things with Pathfinder, I'd love to hear your input, and I can kind of jump into it like however you want. But primarily I just go through some session prep and just do a little bit. It gets me kind of into it every week for a couple hours at least, and try to stay ahead of it, I guess. But yeah, thanks. So like, subscribe, do all the cool stuff, find all the doobly doos, hit the buttons, like that bell, bang bang bang, whatever. I don't have the whole spiel down, but yeah, definitely subscribe if you like it, come back if you like it. I stream, we play every other Saturday, and I stream these prep sessions the other Saturdays that we're not playing, and also on Tuesday nights usually I'll do it. That's when I have a lot of time. So yeah, so just come hang out. Love talking to people. Didn't get anyone chatting today, so over there, over there. Nobody chatting over there today, but that's not too bad. So yeah, thanks for coming out, guys.